Hello and welcome to the GDQ Community Spotlight, where you pick the games. In case you noticed, I don't sound much like Railcoon. My name is Nikasor, and I'm filling in for our wonderful host. He will be back with you next week. For tonight's show, you folks had the choice between two games, and though Mega Man Battle Network 6 didn't win, there we go. Right off the bat, messing it up. We still think that this game is wonderful and worth a watch. If you missed the vote, make sure that you catch upcoming votes by heading to our Twitter at GamesDoneQuick. And before we get into the game, we have a few quick announcements. Speedrunning submissions for our next Frame Fatales all-women speedrunning event is open until June 15th, and we would love to see you show off the games that you love running. So you got a couple more days to get those games in there. Come on, we want to see it. Also, Summer Games Done Quick is almost here! It runs from June 23rd through 29th. That is very soon. And all donations will benefit Doctors Without Borders. So mark your calendar, join us right here on our Twitch channel for a week of speedrunning for a great cause. Showing off this game with us today, we have Rishk, joined by commentators Fat Kid, Arathor, The Last AO, and Tirage42, who's not told me how to say his name, so I'm just gonna wing it. Thanks for joining us on the show, all of you.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Fat Kid. Arathor. Let's do it in order.
All right, so Rishk first. Hello, Rishk.
Hello, how you doing? I'm Rish. I'll be running this game today.
And you brought an entire posse with you.
That I did. I brought Fat Kid, who just recently introduced himself. Say hi again, Fat Kid.
Hi, sorry for rudely interjecting before Rich.
I brought
Absolutely.
I brought Arathar as well. Say hi, Arathar.
Hello, I'm Arotha.
I brought The Last AO. Say hi.
Nope.
Huh. Well.
I think Lust is having difficulties with Discord.
Anyway, I also brought T-Terra-J42. Say hi.
I'm here of my own volition.
Fantastic. All right, so oh my god, there's just so many of you. I don't even know who to ask the questions to. When people think of Mega Man, they don't necessarily think of RPGs. So how did you all discover this game?
So, for me personally, my brother introduced me to the game way back when it was first coming out. And it was actually the first Mega Man game that I ever played, so it's my introduction to the Mega Man series as a whole. And as a result, it holds a very dear spot in my heart, as I'm sure it does for the rest of my lovely commentators here today.
And everyone's just waiting for the cue, like, should I answer too? Yes, jump in, anyone.
The Battle Network games are unique because they took a different spin on the combat system. And you'll see once we get into each game starts with a tutorial where you can see how it like kind of plays out in real time on a grid, but then there's also like this whole deck building, card collecting, battle chip mechanic where you can like try out different folders and customize your playstyle. So it's a unique combination of mechanics that hasn't really been replicated since, although there are a couple exciting indie games in development right now.
That sounds amazing. And there seems to be a whole series of these games. They must have been pretty popular, or was it mostly popular in Japan?
A bit of both, especially Japan. Like a whole series, like anime, trading card games, peripherals. It was very similar to Pokemon.
Yeah, I saw that there was.
Sorry, I was gonna say I think BN4 is like Capcom's third best-selling game or something.
Of all time, and the best-selling Mega Man game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning stuff already. This is incredible. Do you folks speedrun or play any other Mega Man games other than the Battle Network?
Somewhat. I used to speedrun Mega Man X really badly, and some other one. I've already forgotten it. And also Wonder Swan, but that's technically the same series.
Since the genres are a little bit different, there's not as much overlap between classic and X speedrunners and Battle Network, but there are a few of us that do a little bit of both.
Is there a big community for people who run Battle Network games?
I'd say like a small but dedicated. It's funny how we all kind of like accidentally found each other at the same time through Speedruns Live and SDA a couple years ago, like 2014, 2013. and it's slowly grown since. Like Rish kind of came out of nowhere and clean sweeped all the records for the Star Wars series, which is the spiritual successor to Battle Network. And Dallas came in as well. So small but dedicated, I'd say. And we've got a Discord if people would like to join that. I'm sure we'll post the link in chat and later on.
Of all the Battle Network series, is there one that is easier, better to speedrun, or something that someone can jump into for
This one, Rish, you want to brag about your speedrun?
Yes, so for Battle Network 6, I think that it's probably one of the easier ones to get into. The early games have a lot of RNG manipulation that you can perform.
Optional.
Yeah, you have the option to perform it, which makes the runs really fast, but it also becomes harder to learn how to be that fast. Whereas in Battle Network 6, you don't really have that RNG manipulation aspect to it. You just kind of learn how to play the game and choose your chips accordingly during the fights, where you have to go, etc. And this game in particular has a newer mechanic for the series, the cross system, and we'll be abusing heat cross in particular quite a bit as soon as we get it, and that will essentially be the entirety of the run. We'll be using heat cross. So that's why I say BN6 is probably the easiest to learn, because the combat's not necessarily hard to learn, but it can be a little tricky to master and go as fast as you can based off of the RNG that you're given.
All right, I'm ready to see this. I got to see what this is about. Are you all ready to get started?
Yes.
Take it away.
I would like to check one last time the last AO. If you're able to talk, say hi.
Yeah, hey everybody.
There he
Hi.
is.
We have an AO.
All right. So the gang's all here. Fat Kid, would you like to give me a countdown for this, and I'll get started?
Sure. On go. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Gotta skip a couple cutscenes, and here we go.
So, Kid, would you care to kind of explain like what Battle Network is a little bit, and then Arathar can go over the mechanics in the tutorial?
Yeah, Battle Network 6 is a spin-off of the Mega Man series made by Capcom. It's mostly just on the Game Boy Advance. There are 6 main series titles. This is obviously the 6th. And it has like a unique battle system where it's a mix of sort of real-time movement and trading card aspects and turn-based. So there's not really like many, if any, other games like it outside of more recent games. Pretty cool. And this is the tutorial coming up, which I don't know if anyone else could probably explain it better. Not that much is going on.
Arathar, would you care to?
Sure. So, for anyone who isn't familiar with Battle Network mechanics, it is a deck building action RPG. So, you build a deck beforehand, we'll see bits and pieces of that later. But in battles, you get to choose between 5 chips starting out. You can increase the number of chips you can draw later on. But you get this 3x6 battlefield. Your zone is 3x3, enemies 3x3. We augment it with certain battle chips, as you'll see in this tutorial. But basically, the mechanics you need to know right now are that you can take different chips if they're the same code, which you'll see underneath the chips. In this case, area grab and wide sword are both S code, so you can take both. Or as you saw in the first tutorial, you can take different codes if it's the same chip. You can't combine these rules though. And there are also asterisk chips, which are wild cards.
And you'll
then
see
the
there
third
a little
tutorial-
bit that he's using the Buster. Your Buster's really weak starting out, and so we're a lot more reliant on battle chips. But you can augment that. Well, the Buster will get better later. Another reason that chips get better is full synchro. Sorry for interrupting, Arathar. You want to explain full synchro?
Mm-hmm. So in that fight, we use full synchro. They start the battle with it. There's a timing for every virus in the game where you can hit them and it will stun them and give you full synchro. It's called a counter hit. And it will double the damage of the next chip that Mega Man uses. So that gets abused a couple of times. Not super frequently. So just now, Rish regged Crackshot, which is a 60 damage star code chip that only costs 4 megabytes. The reg system just lets you start with 4 megabytes of regular memory, and you can pick more up. They're just items that you can get from mystery data.
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
you will start every battle with your regular chip.
Yeah, to play off like the card game or the deck of cards analogy, it's like you could go through your deck, pick one card out, and you always start your hand with that. And crack shot is something that was introduced in 6, and it goes from in 5 being where it was just a panel out, so you could use it as a defensive option to, instead of just destroying the panel, you pick it up and throw it, and it does 60 damage. In general, 6 seemed to add a lot more powerful things early on. That's one reason it kind of lends itself nicely to speedrunning. And then also, it was very important that Rish got a reflector from that fight. Last, you want to talk about the chips that we'll be needing and why that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. So, progressing through the game, you have to go through certain gates, which just kind of progress block you from going to areas that we're going to need to go through. That first gate that Rish went through, he needed to be able to show a reflector chip, which fortunately he got from the first encounter. That Navi that he just talked to there told him that there's a key missing for this upcoming gate, so unfortunately he can't proceed further there. In the future, we're going to need a very important train arrow chip, which is unfortunately kind of RNG gated, and we're going to have to hope for some good luck later in order to obtain that.
Knowing my luck, though, that this is an event speed run, we'll see how it goes.
I'd just like to point out, thinking about it, it's quite the difference when me and Rish were the only ones available for Star Force and BN6 is a full house. Just how the series go. Yeah, right now, Lan goes to the school, gets attacked because he doesn't have a student ID. Weird that wasn't sorted out earlier, but whatever. So he was attacked by the guard robots. He gets a student ID, and now you just got to go around talking to all of the classmates. Rish is talking to the desks though, because he just really wants to get to know, everyone's names by looking at the desks.
Two desk.
So I did mention it briefly earlier, but we've picked up our first Reg Up 1 just now, and that's for a chip that we're going to set to Reg later. There's a couple different things we use throughout the run, but the main one is copy damage.
Good fight. So a lot of the enemies and bosses in traditional Mega Man style have very fixed patterns, and so once you learn kind of like how their AI works, the old stoves will try to be 3 spaces away from you and then do the flamethrower. So if you stand in the back, you can pull them forward, hit with the sword, and then taking advantage again of full synchro and the counter hit windows to make Crackshot do twice as much damage, so you can take both of them out in one chip as opposed to waiting. So that was well done by Rish.
I also noticed that he picked up a blue mystery data there, which contains 700 zennies. Zenny is the money of this game, and fortunately in BN6 in particular, you don't actually end up using it all that much. We're going to exclusively buy sneak runs, which we'll explain a little bit later, but bosses drop more than enough zenny, so it's not something, money isn't really something we need to worry about in this game.
Here you see something that's a little unique to 6 as well. He's currently running around in the real world as Mega Man, who is only supposed to exist on the internet. But in 6, they've come up with a device called a copybot, which lets Mega Man, for a short time, or any Navi for that matter, come into the real world. The copybot kind of changes to take the shape of the Navi. They're restricted, though. They can't use any Navi abilities or chips. And here we have the first major dungeon of the game. This is the robot control comps, and the mechanic in here is that there are set barriers which trigger these firewalls, as you see here. For the most part, we ignore them, but occasionally it will be faster to avoid them. That's mostly for step counter reasons. They can't kill you, and the viruses in here are quite easy to dodge, so it's not particularly dangerous. But also, always get one encounter in here. There's a possibility to get a second encounter. You could skip it.
Somebody asks, is Falza or Greg faster? I love Gregar. Greg. I'm doing that from now.
Gregar is the faster version, and that's for 2 reasons. One, Heat Cross is just way, way better than Spout Cross. It does more damage. It's going to get you through the game way faster. And the second reason is because the scenario itself, there's only one required cross scenario. So in Gregar you get Heat Cross, and in Falzar you get Aqua Cross, Spout Cross, sorry. And Spout Cross just has a longer scenario. Also, it was a really late encounter, so chances are we're only going to get one encounter in here.
Do you want to
Yes.
talk about version differences in general? Like, starting with Battle Network 3, they did 2 different versions, but they're mostly similar except for a few things. In 6, what's different?
So in 6, there are a number of cross navis, which are different forms that you can switch between as Mega Man in battle. And all of those and the scenarios to get them are different in 6. Also, every game has different Giga Chips between the versions. And you can get a few different Navi chips based on your version for the Navis that are actually in the game you're playing. Although you can get them all, but it's easier to get the ones in the game.
Yeah, and I think the shops are also different, but that's less important for 6 than some of the other games.
Shops are the same in 6, I believe.
Oh, they are? Cool.
Some of the chip code rewards from battle is different. For
Okay.
instance, you can get you get Reflector C if you get a bad rank in Gregar, but you get Reflector P in Falzar, which is a little strange.
And the code is very important because the more chips that we have of the same code or of a star code, the more folder flow you have.
Mhm.
And that lets you take more chips more quickly, use more attacks in battle, and also get to the chips that your best chips more quickly.
Yeah, so null null element in particular. Every chip has an element, and null attribute chips are going to become really important later on.
All right, so we're doing a folder edit now, right before we get the first boss coming up, Blastman, and we're rigging Reflector. You want to talk a little bit about Blastman's AI?
Sure. So Blastman's AI, Blastman being the first boss, you'll see him here in a moment. Blastman will move 4 times, and on the 4th movement he'll attack. If you're standing directly behind a field obstacle, he will always jump straight to the front in the row you're in and do a fire tunnel attack, which is really easy to counter with Reflector, so that's why we take that. It's actually kind of an unfortunate draw. Hopefully it goes okay. As you see there, as long as you're standing behind that cube, directly behind only 1 square, then he will always do that. He likes to troll when you have swords, though. Okay.
Swords are one of the strongest things that we have, but unfortunately, he has to come to the front. There's only 2 panels where he can do that. He moves around randomly until he goes to attack you, and then he'll move in your row. Good fight, though, despite the draw.
It's a pretty good fight. Yeah, so
Story-wise,
Blastman's really easy to counter hit.
Yeah. Story-wise, Blastman was... I forget, but he was causing like all of the robots to breathe fire somehow, because BN6's story is great. It was Mick's fault, because... I don't know, he got tricked into it or something. The story's dumb, but that's what happened.
Mick is upset that the new kid, Lan, is cooler than he is, so this World 3 Navi shows up and says, hey, you want to get even? Let's burn the school down. Because school security robots with flamethrowers is apparently a good idea here in Central Town. Things are done differently in ACDC.
Mick saw Lan skating upstairs in school and was like, I can't compete with that. I need a Navi.
Oh, so we're going to buy snake runs here? Yeah, Airthor, you want to talk about run rates and how snake run works?
Yeah, so I was going to say we kind of glossed over it in the robot control comps, but in the first computer we picked up a blue mystery data, which gave us a HP memory, which increases Mega Man's base HP by 20. And run rates in this game, you can run from battles, Rich has done it a few times. Run rates are based solely on Mega Man's maximum base HP. So that's the only HP memory we intentionally pick up in the run. 2 others are handed to us in dialogue boxes or cutscenes. And there's also an item called Sneak Run. And he picked up a few of those and used one, and that's why it's not getting in. Kind of like repels from Pokemon, but they're based on your run rate. So if you have 100% run rate in Central, which we do, the run rate for Central is 120, then you will not get encounters at all.
Hmm. But unfortunately, compared to the previous games, the kind of like HP curve for being able to maintain the ability to escape on the first turn or sneak run in comps is too steep for how many HP memories we can get. So most of the fights you either defeat quickly because you are stronger in this game relatively, or you attempt to run and it's like a 50% or 75% chance, depending on your chip draw. Fat Kid, you want to tell us about pelicans?
Yeah. So Mick woke up with a penguin next to him or something. So he brings it to school because he doesn't know what to do with it. Except Mick calls it a pelican because I don't know. So we talked to one of the teachers who's supposed to know about like penguins for some reason, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they eat fish. Go talk to my my assistant to get some fish." So you go to this classroom and talk to him, and he's like, "I don't have any fish. I'm at school. Why would I have fish?" But he tells you to go talk to his grandpa, who happens to have fish in his basket. So that's what we're doing right now. Right there, we pick up a reg up 2, which is... We'll explain that mechanic when it comes.
Unfortunately, the box won't open, and if something doesn't work in the Battle Network series, it's probably a virus. So we're going to have to defeat the virus so that we can open the box. And this is another case where having Reflector set as our default ship, our regular ship, is useful because the piranha is going to move either up or down, and then the counter hit window lines up to where as it attacks, you can counter hit it. And Reflector is really good in this game because it just attacks the entire row. So you can double hit, get a lot of damage in, and full synchro. And then this fight almost always takes 2 turns as a result of that. Because full synchro plus almost anything that you draw will be enough to take out the starfish. The only issue is the bubbles kind of get in the way, and they can trap you if you get stuck in it. But otherwise, that was a good fight. Unfortunate drop, but good fight.
So we now have fish to give to the quote-unquote pelican.
And coming up is probably, for world record attempts, the most important part of the run. Last, you want to talk about Seaside?
Yeah, so we're shortly going to take a trip into the Seaside area on the net, which is where we're going to encounter a new type of virus called piranha, and it drops the train arrow chip, which I discussed previously. Now, there's only so large a chance of encountering a piranha, and when you delete viruses in a battle, the game randomly selects one of the viruses in the battle to read its drop table from, and then rolls on the drop table to see what you get. So we need to get lucky enough to have an encounter with piranhas, roll a piranha as our drop table result, and it doesn't even have a 100% chance to drop our train arrow. So we need things are a little stacked against us, but hopefully Arish will get lucky here. And that's that chip that we'll need later on to get through one of the doors.
There's a dude here who's like panicking, and everyone in Vienna panics just runs back and forth the exact same length. It looks really funny. So he's like, we should talk to him. He's like, he's fine. Apparently he's like a plumber, Navi or something. But he's lost his tool. As we find up here, a plumber Navi will be useful because the path is blocked by a tiny puddle of water, which is no good. So we go talk to him.
And up next, we'll find one of the best sprites in the game. Hopefully you'll see it for a brief second on the screen. Pay attention once we go fix the virus in the toilet.
I'll let the cutscene play out long enough for you guys to see the best sprite in the video game.
So this fight is called the Bathroom Splits fight. We have a split for this called Bathroom Splits. It's kind of just a meme. There's not really much of a reason to have a split here, if I'm honest.
And there it is.
But yeah, it's a Metar with a plunger on its head. And as it turns out, Reflector is really, really good in this fight as well. And we've actually drawn a chip to go with it, which is good.
As long as I don't cheat.
It's literally impossible to die this fight, right, Fat Kid?
Yeah.
Reflector is particularly interesting here because Matars are normally invulnerable until they're attacking. If they attack in order, if the one in front of them gets defeated, then they activate. However, it takes 1 frame to do that. Reflector, even though it looks like it hits everything instantly, kind of like a laser, it actually has travel time. And because it moves from one panel to the other, essentially, Reflector is able to delete both of the Matars, even though the back one should be protected. So that works out nicely, because otherwise you have to do breaking damage, which we don't have too much access to at this point.
Yep, so now we can get past the scary puddle of water by fixing the pipe. Well, he fixes the pipe for us with the plunger thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to Seaside, everybody's favorite.
So we're expecting about 2 random encounters in, as last talked about previously. We're hoping for piranhas, and then it's basically a coin flip. How you play the fight doesn't matter too much, as long as you get rank 6 or higher. If it's got a piranha and it picks that drop table, it's a coin flip. Half the time you get the chip, we don't care about the code, really. A's better, but it's more important that you get the chip. And then the other half the time you get Zenny, which we really don't need in the run.
So I just like to read out this message from Punmaster Zero. Are there any impossible to die at fights that Fat Kid hasn't died at?
None that I know of.
Look, I died to Corn as well because it dodged my coffee damage. Enemies
cool.
cheat in this game.
And then also Swordman, right? Like, I'm sure there's a big list somewhere.
I did die to Swordman.
These, encounter-
hopefully we get a trainer.
Yeah, a 1 in 3, and then this is a 1 in 6, because then you actually have to.
Oh, thank God.
That's a 1 in 6.
Got
That's very
it.
lucky. And it's
that's
A
so
rank.
good.
So because he got the double kill, only moved twice, he got S rank, which has A code. So train arrow A, again, A means that we can select it with other chips, like Recov A, Cannon A, go through the folder more quickly. But it also means that we can show off L button strats in Aquarium or Aquam Crop in the next scenario, which is an interesting thing. Aerthar will explain it more. And also, Train Arrow is a good chip that you can use on Heatman that we'll be fighting later. Hopefully, we draw on that fight too. So there's a lot of good reasons for Train 1A in particular. So that was very lucky. That was a 1 in 6.
It's also very useful even on Dive Man, despite not having the type difference.
That's true. Train Arrow, once you see it in combat, it does more damage the further away you are, and you'll see why.
I hope we see it in combat.
Mm-hmm.
So coming up here after he passes the day, when he returns to his house, we'll be getting the Navi customizer tutorial and also be doing the second folder edit run, if you don't include Reg and Crackshot. He's going to be adding in copy damage and the train arrow he just got.
Somebody asks, where can I find more info on the BN Speedrun community?
Oh,
This sounds like a useful plug.
Could we get another post to the Discord? There's a few resources. Aerthar actually has a tutorial for this game, and Rish is working on another, more segmented one. But being in the Discord is the best place to just ask questions and stuff. Otherwise, you can reach out to any of the runners, I think, on Twitter, and we'll connect you with the resources. There's also a speedrun.com and Mega Man RTA leaderboards page, so you can check it out there. Cool. Yeah, so
this is the Navi customizer. There are a few rules you have to follow.
Suggestions.
It's basically Tetris. Yeah, well, the rules are more like suggestions, but basically, solid blocks have to touch the command line. It's the double thick black line in the third row down.
Mm-hmm.
And the plus part programs, which are the ones that are not solid color, are not allowed to touch that. Also, you can only have up to 4 colors at a time, and you can not have 2 different colors touching each other, or 2 of the same color rather touching each other. And those are pretty much all the rules. We're going to be breaking at least one rule. It's one I didn't mention, but You can kind of place programs outside of the guidelines in BN6.
Yeah,
The,
it's
the
unique to
grid
BN6.
itself, in fact, even a suggestion. You'll be seeing that later. The actual programs in our Navi right now are mostly irrelevant. Attack +1 is probably closest to being relevant, and it's going to add 10 extra damage to our charge.
Really, I figure undershirt would be high up on that list.
I don't think there are any dangerous enough fights for undershirt to matter. But yeah, basically what undershirt does is it lets you survive one lethal hit. If you have more than 1 HP, you'll just be left at 1 HP instead.
Yeah, so basically endure.
Yeah.
Are you happy, Arathar?
With,
I did it like 6 times.
Good job. So proud. There's like a 2 or 3 frame window where you can turn around when interacting with objects.
You literally talk to these objects like you're an anime protagonist.
Yep.
Aren't you?
Yeah, Lan literally is an anime protagonist.
He's not an edgy one, though. At least not edgy enough.
Oh, when we were doing the folder edit, I wanted to mention folder stacking, right? Because the Battle Network series uses RNG to shuffle your folder, and it does a really poor job because it's basically just pick 2 slots, swap it, and there's a bias to leave it where it is. So the chips that you have at the top of the folder are more likely to get drawn. So when we edit the folder, we try and put more powerful chips up there, like copy damage or train arrow or crack shot, things that we want to draw.
Yeah, train arrow in particular is in slot 3 right now, which means it's much more likely to be drawn on the first draw. On top of this, the regged chip gets swapped with whatever the first chip in the folder is. So putting something in slot 1 is not a good idea, usually.
Yeah, so generally we want to put our strong chips in slots 2 to 5. I think they have roughly a 24% chance of being drawn on the first turn.
Which is pretty convenient.
Right now, story-wise, what's happening is there's an NPC named Blackbeard or something. He made the aquarium go out of control, and I believe Mick is currently defending a penguin's life with a broom against an alligator. So we probably want to solve that problem pretty fast. So Lan needs to distract a elephant seal that is in the way of the aquarium comps, or aquarium comps. But he can't because the water's covered in jellyfish, and Mega Man tells him not to. So he goes to get a copy bot and makes Mega Man do it and get the beach ball.
Very conveniently placed copy bot, by the way.
By the way, shout outs to that green arrow that Arathar kept thinking was water for some reason.
No idea what you're talking about.
No, I think that was methodical. Arathar would
Oh,
have
yeah. You're right.
Alright, so we're coming into the Aquarium comps now. The mechanic in here is that there are a few fish tanks that you have to run around and collect progs and put them in the fish tanks. Each prog will give you a hint as to which tank they belong in.
The penguin is a liar.
And when you're carrying them back to the tank, there are sharks swimming around in the water. There are red sharks, which follow a completely fixed pattern and are slightly faster, and there are kind of navy blue sharks that will attempt to chase Mega Man, but if you always run the same path, they'll always go the same way. So it ends up not being much of an issue, and you'll see he's already done it once. You can... So the developers put in a command. You can press L to switch to LAN and go explore the aquarium to kind of read all the comp tanks and figure out, based on the hint, what the prog is, if you've forgotten or can't figure it out. But a byproduct of this is that you're leaving the area and re-entering, which resets your step counter and lets us avoid all random encounters in here. And one cycle, I think, takes about 4 or 5 seconds. And we can't run from encounters in here consistently at all, so we would have to fight all of them. But even if we could run, that takes 7.5 to 8 seconds, so it's still faster.
And that's part of why getting Train Arrow earlier was so important. The viruses in this comp do include piranhas, so we could be doing these fights in order to get that mandatory Train Arrow if we needed it. But since Rish was lucky enough to get one earlier, we can skip all of these encounters without worry.
Yeah, the way movement works is actually pretty interesting. Every time you take a step, it increments the step counter. If you're walking, it's 1 per frame. If you're running, it's 2 per frame. And every 64 steps, it'll do an encounter check. And based off of what your current total steps are, it will reference a encounter chance table specific to that area to see, oh, for that amount of steps, you have a 0% chance for an encounter. And eventually it goes up to like 3%, 6%, 9%, 15%, and caps out at 50% for most areas. And so we generally try to push the L button before we get to the 3%, but Aerthar, using like scripts to visualize the percent chance of an encounter, found out like different places that the optimal locations to do that. And if you push it a little bit and you run through like a 3% or a 9%, then you can get through with 1 fewer L button press, which is technically faster, but a little bit risky. It's just kind of neat, like how finely tuned that turned out. We know way too much about how these games work. Shout out to Prof 9.
Yeah, on that note, BN5 has gotten really, really interesting lately.
Yeah.
We very slowly, but also steadily tearing these games apart.
Mm-hmm. Like Dallas just the other day found out that if you're holding a direction in between Gauntlet fights in Battle Network 3, RNG advances 1 more time, which actually has pretty significant implications, and we're going to have to reroute any percent. But a quick plug for EXE5, essentially the Japanese version of that game, depending on what your health was when you end a liberation, can actually wrong warp you. And anyone in speedrunning knows that if you can wrong warp, you can break the game. And they found out how to run a debug code to get themselves 90 of every battleship in the game. So it's like play for an hour and a half, get every chip in the game, and then it's just a boss rush after that. So that's pretty cool.
Among other things, including but not limited to maxing out your HP and Zenny.
And getting every Navi Coast part in existence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun.
That's one word for it.
Unfortunately, the setup is a little too slow for any percent unless you have peripherals.
I don't know that we've timed it. Maybe. Probably.
If you had a peripheral to just get Number Man DS, I think it would be faster. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like we didn't get many of them here in America, but in Japan there were a lot of chip gates, and so you could actually get an attachment for the SP, plug it in, and use actual battle chips and slot it in and get to use them. Or the e-reader also worked with it, and you could swipe e-reader cards and get things. So if you have like a Numberman DS e-reader card, then you can do it with a whole lot less setup. So Dive Man's coming up. We got one more prog to put back. We figured out a little bit about how Dive Man works. The last, do you want to explain that? Know how to like bait him to the front and restrict his movement and stuff?
Yeah, so Dive Man moves twice adjacent to himself and then pops up and sometimes doesn't attack and sometimes doesn't, which is really annoying because we want him to attack so we can get counter hits for that juicy 2x damage. He doesn't like, much like other Navis in this game, doesn't like to move into the same row that you're in, however, so you can sort of get him to move in directions that you want. Additionally, he doesn't backtrack, so as we go into the fight here, you'll be able to see he'll start moving in our direction, and then we can sort of shepherd him in a direction that we want, so that eventually he'll move to the front. Because Rish stood in the middle there, or, well, he went to the side, so there was a 50-50 chance that we would get him to come to the front and get that sword hit in. And it was very well done. Additionally, every fourth attack, Diveman will switch up from maybe attacking, maybe not, sorry, every fourth movement, and he'll do this giant wave that you just saw. That one's nice because it's a more consistent counter hit, but Diveman's kind of a nasty fight in general because he keeps going under the water. When he's underwater, very few chips can hit him. Thrown bombs can, and a couple of firearm can, but for the most part, he's immune to damage until he pops up.
Yeah, annoyingly, Diveman actually ends up being the biggest problem as far as bosses go in the run. He is by far the hardest Navi.
This will be quickly because he spends so much time invulnerable and he's inconsistent. You did get to see Train Arrow though at max distance. Every panel between you and your target spawns an additional arrow. So Train Arrow has a bunch of hits, and then if you put an attack plus 10 on that or do double damage or have full synchro, can do a lot of damage, which hopefully you'll see even more effectively on Heatman. But that was still a fine Diveman fight. He's the worst in the game because coming up next, things are going to change pretty significantly.
The missiles do block hits because you'll just destroy the missiles. So
the missiles don't have hitboxes.
If
they hit you while you're doing an attack, you'll be flinched out of it.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes.
I've been playing as if they were blocked this entire time.
That is our favorite Battle Network 6 speedrunner.
You still kind of don't want to shoot and get hit by one because sometimes it'll flinch you and you'll lose your chip.
Hey, Fat Kid, I think I know someone named Methodical has made a Battle Network 6 tutorial. Would you like a link to it?
Nah, it's okay. I like running this my way.
I like
knowing
him
how
running
to
this
do
as well.
Aquarium comps.
Aquarium comps.
Aquarium comp.
Yeah, so just like how we can counter hit enemies when they're about to attack, they can counter hit you and knock you out of using your chips, which is really annoying. And so that's the big risk with those torpedoes that we're firing. Additionally, those torpedoes do water damage. That'll be relevant later on when we like to do lots of fire and it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and so over the course of the next 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be getting a lot of very powerful toys.
Very.
The first of which is going to be Heat Cross, which will be the result of the scenario we're about to start. This is the Heat Cross scenario, and it is routed out very nicely, and it's pretty fast. So this is Mr. Match. He likes to set things on fire. He's a good guy in 6th, though, so he's going to let us set things on fire instead.
He looks pretty swag with those glasses. Can't believe I actually just used the word swag, but it's a relevant name.
Oh,
Also,
so
don't hit
interesting
it too
thing
late
back
this
there.
time.
Sorry?
Don't hit it too late this time, Rich.
Thanks.
Oh,
Interesting thing back there, instead of waiting for the security cubes, you can actually open the start menu and go into any of the menu options, and then back out, and it clears the security cube.
reloads the area. It's gone. So
Going
we're able
into
to.
a folder menu and leaving again counts as a screen transition, so it's just gone.
Yeah, so these are the Calify Sarathar. We can do them consistently because when you take control of another Navi, you get to use their signature chip, and we've got Crackshot on Reg, right? So, how do these play out?
Right, so between Crackshot and Heat Press, which is Heatman's special chip, you can get all of these fights with just those two things. And it works out very nicely.
The trouble here is those kettles we're trying to delete only take fire damage, they heal rapidly, and you need to hit them for 100 points worth of fire damage in order to kill them. So we're using counter hits to set up the double damage into our Heat Press, which is conveniently a 70 damage fire chip, which is enough to kill them.
Additionally, Heatman's charge shot does not hit the back row, or the back column rather. So right here, Rich is going to do a quick folder edit to switch his reg chip to copy damage. And that's for the last fight. And this is one of the main benefits of having these reg ups. Copy damage also turns out to be very, very fast later, so...
Copy damage, when you target an enemy with it, says that any damage other enemies take will get copied over to this one. So he shoots the top kettle and then hits the other ones, and the damage gets copied over. This will be super relevant later when we have the ability to abuse people being weak to, or enemies being weak to fire, or getting past their shields, or just causing more area of effect damage, because we can tag one virus and then hit another one to copy the damage.
So does Heatman move a fixed number of times, or is it a little bit random?
He moves a random number of times.
Nice counter.
These are good counter hits. Ideally, we would draw Train Arrow and he would already be dead. He takes
4x
takes
damage.
double damage from water chips. Oh, that's unfortunate.
That's a lot of broken.
If he did the other attack there, Rish could have got another counter hit. There's Train Arrow. This will do enough, even without full synchro. And that's Heatman. So
I remember
Heatman
that-
moves his random number of times and then goes to the middle tile on the back column to do his attack, and he's a really easy counter hit.
I'm
remember
gonna
that-
mess this up.
This tutorial is
Just mash it.
potentially really cool. Hopefully he
Just
gets
mash
the
it, dude.
thing.
Pause buffering. So after you use a battle chip, there's a cooldown on when you can use the next one. And that goes down even while paused. So if you use a chip, pause, and then unpause, you can use another chip more quickly than you should normally be able to. Because, again, the Matar 2 is invulnerable when the shield is down, when his helmet's down. But you can go just barely fast enough to get him with a fire hit. So now we have Heat Cross. This is really good, right? Why is Heat Cross so good?
So Heat Cross has a charge shot that, well, first of all, in BN6 you can just select charges or crosses from the menu. When you
Which was
open
a
the chip gauge, you
mistake.
can hit up and just
Awesome.
press Heat Cross, and you can have it at the start of every battle for free. And as long as you don't get hit by an Aqua type attack, you'll keep it for the whole fight. And Heat Cross's charge shot is really good because it charges super fast and it does 130 damage in a area of 3 tiles ahead of you.
Yeah,
This
it's worth
one-
noting it is capped to 130 damage, even if you have
Yes.
attack +1s to make it +5, it won't go over 130.
So we're about to get a Navi customizer part from the Lotto Trader called Buster Pack, which increases all of our Buster stats by +3. We're going to be taking out attack +1, so this would set our Buster to +4. But one of the other things Heat Cross does is give you attack +1, so it caps us out at 5. Normally, you can use Buster ups to go past 5 as normal Mega Man, but it's actually hard capped on Heat Cross.
And number codes are a thing that you can find around the game. Like inside the game, you can like talk to the back of signs, and they, like in other places, rather random objects, they'll give you a string of numbers that you can input in number codes. And they also exist. I'm not sure for BN6, but for the other games, they exist outside of the game in other media like the anime and ramen bowls.
Capcom
Yeah,
really
and-
put these codes everywhere.
So probably when Rich does his edit, he's going to be taking out 2 swords after he code swords, or sorry, attack swords. I think
Element sword.
element. Sure.
By
Swords
element.
have an element.
And then he also needs to put Buster Pack and HP plus 400 in his folder, which are the 2 Navi customizer parts we got. The 2 chips were Mega Boomer M, which is the best chip in the game, and Element Trap, which is a pretty good chip, but it's time stop and only works against enemies with elements. But it is null code, so we can charge it later, and we'll be learning that very, very soon.
We mentioned charging chips a couple times. Heat Cross can charge fire chips to make them do additional damage. And then Beast Out, which is different from crosses that we'll get here in a little bit, can also charge chips to a different effect. And you can combine Beast Out and crosses, in our case, Heat Beast, to charge null chips to do a bunch of damage.
You might have noticed that Rish put Buster Pack a little bit outside of the bounds of the Navi customizer. Battle Network 6 just lets you do that. It's not really something we should worry about too much. Mega Man might have a slight Buster bug, but that doesn't affect our Heat Cross charge shot. And when we get Beast Out, which we'll explain in about 10-ish minutes, is when we'll be getting that. It doesn't affect that either, so it essentially does nothing to us. There are no drawbacks.
Dad, how do I beat a side beast? I don't know.
It's too dangerous, son.
Definitely
Yeah,
not by absorbing it.
there's a amusing plot happening right now. So this is soul weapons. Essentially, the Psy Beast from the title of the game have gone out of control, and they're releasing evil spirits. And now we have to do a puzzle to defeat them. Last, do you want to explain what the puzzle is?
Sure. So we have a number of weapons: the knife, sword, axe, and gun, and they hit squares away from Mega Man, which you can see being pointed out with the crosshairs while Rish is moving around. And our goal is to delete all of these spirits that are inhabiting the different areas. The red ones have 1 HP, yellow ones have 2, and blue ones we'll see later on have 3, unless you can hit them from behind. So the goal is to delete all of them before you run out of weapons, and as a bonus, any remaining weapons you have turn into bug frags. Now there's some important speed tech being done here. When you delete one of the evil spirits, it flashes for a little while, as you see right here. It flashes for a little while, whereas just dealing damage to them doesn't have that delay. So Rish is going to go out of his way at some points to set up so that he can delete a bunch at the same time and have those delete flashes be done simultaneously. Like right here, we shoot the yellow one, and now we'll charge forward and hit them all with an axe. Additionally, you can be standing next to one of these when you hit them. You'll notice that up to this point, Rish actually hasn't stood next to one that survived an attack. If you do, it counterattacks you for a whopping 10 damage, which at this point is trivial, and we're not going to get in any scary fights anyway. But the animation for that takes a good 5 seconds, so it's important to have these puzzles solved for speedrunning purposes. But that light punishment was nice when playing through the game casually, because there were so many different ways to go about solving these puzzles.
A lot of people say when I've been running, well, quote unquote running this, when I'm playing this, they didn't like this scenario casually, but I don't know, I like it quite a bit. There's no encounters here, so it goes pretty fast. It's fairly easy, kind of relaxing.
Yeah, I wish
I
there
do
was.
enjoy puzzle games as well, so I quite liked this casually.
I feel like too often times Battle Network will throw a puzzle at you, but then you still get random encounters on top of it, and it's just kind of like interrupting itself.
Gargoyle comps. I still like gargoyle comps though.
We'll be seeing these evil spirits come in 3 different sets. So Rish just finished up the first set, where he's going to go confront Gregar. Very shortly after, we're going to be taking Heatman for a spin through Seaside in order to do another set, and then it gets revisited again later on in the Underground. The Underground one is actually kind of tricky. The last puzzle is hard, and you only have 1 weapon to spare when done optimally. But other than that, they're not too bad.
Or suboptimally, right, Rish?
Yeah, friendly reminder not to do any hard math problems while you're trying to do these soul weapon puzzles.
Converting
Like
converting
times.
So you have installed Psybeast Gregar. What happened to Mega Man? Why are we Heatman?
So in the cutscene, Mega Man absorbed Greg, and now he's like freaking out. He's like dying. So now we need Heatman to get a magic MacGuffin water to heal him.
Fortunately, Heatman has 300 base health, which means we can use his. That effectively works for sneak running and running away from encounters, and lets us sneak run through central area so we can get to Seaside, which is the next section of soul weapons. A little more complicated, but mostly the same mechanics.
BN6 has actually some of my favorite puzzles and boss computers in the series. I really like the judge tree as well, which we'll see right after this scenario, actually.
I too enjoy ignoring the puzzle.
I was gonna say puzzles, judge tree. Hold on now.
Yeah, I mean, we basically, almost every comp, we kind of just ignore the mechanics, except the first time through Judge Tree, for the most part. And the Mr. Weather comps, we can't really just ignore the mechanics, unfortunately.
But we do go out of our way to abuse the mechanics as much as possible to avoid virus encounters.
Yes, that is also true for Aquarium comps.
In the Aquarium comps, it's very apparent, but in Blast Man, when those firewalls were up, we actually weren't increasing our step counter at all. And later on, we will be doing silly things to the judge tree to avoid some encounters there.
Yeah, it's actually... Oh, and this is the door that you need a train hour for. So if you don't get it, you actually have to do random encounters as Heatman, which is particularly bad because your charge shot doesn't reach the back row, which is where some of the enemies are.
I always thought that was kind of a cool optimization, where you open the security cube and then go kill a ghost while you're waiting for it to clear.
Mm-hmm.
Got to be real careful
In
here
large,
too.
these scenarios were already routed for us by the task, and kind of tweaked very slightly to make them a little better.
More RTA viable. Not necessarily RTA viable, but let us focus on keeping our encounter or our step counter to a minimum.
Well, more so the task just does a couple weird things that weren't necessarily optimal. It's a little old at this point.
Ah.
Comment I'll call out in chat. Punmaster points out that we literally just paid to win to open that cube. I'm not actually sure if this puzzle is solvable without opening the cube.
Mm.
It is.
I don't think it is, because you've got two blue one
You have to fight your way through it.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
only got
finding
two
your way
left,
through
so.
things, the door to Seaside 3 is locked with a 3-round battle gauntlet. Luckily for us, this is another series of fights that we can clear quite easily with just our reg chip and heat press. Naturally, by abusing full synchro.
I wonder if Lucky's here. He's gonna get mad at me for not doing what I literally discovered the other day.
Wait, what did you discover
The
the
buster
other
shot?
day?
Just like buffer my movement instead of hesitate there.
Mm.
If you move back and then forward, you still get the counter hit more consistently. But I could just hesitate too and do it the same way.
Yeah, since counter hits are so useful, among other things like enemy behavior and chip usage, finding ways to consistently time out your attacks is pretty useful. And you can buffer movements and chip usage. Whenever you hold a direction, there's like a period of time where you're moving between panels. And if you press and hold the A button on the first frame that you're on the next panel, you'll use that chip attack. So you can do movement buffering to use chips at more specific times and queue up counter hits.
Of course, Lucky joins right as I say that.
Shoutouts to Lucky Typhlosion, Battle Network 5, and Drill Arm.
Lucky did a lot of work on Proto Man version BN5. Made the time a lot better.
I'd argue that I made the time a lot better, and he just sort of kept it rolling.
You both make the time better.
Proto Man 5 was a meme in our community for a long time because the best run we had was over 5 hours in duration for a while. When we had Bid Wars, it was how long do you want the runner to have to suffer through a Mega Man 5 game? But since then, we've actually gotten every game in the Mega Man Battle Network series below 4 hours, which is quite a testament to routing and human perseverance, I suppose.
I like this strategy for the final fight.
I too like getting trolled by the Quaker.
Luckily, it didn't matter because I still needed to open the custom gauge one more time.
Yeah,
did it-
so if
he
you're
jumped.
lucky on that fight, you can pick up another chip to take because the machine gunner in the back gets left at 20 HP.
So now we've got the amazing healing water. We're going to go splash it on Mega Man's face. In appreciation, he's going to delete Heatman in one shot, and then we're going to learn about our newfound powers.
Technically, you can not get an encounter on the way to this warp, but you get it about 100% of the time, 50% of the time.
Accurate.
The game reads my name as Rish and decides that therefore I must get an encounter. So.
And this is the Bestow tutorial. So what Bestow does, it's another form that you can use as Mega Man. You can use this for 3 turns, and you gain a turn back on the counter. Not between battles, but every time you do a battle without using Bestow. And the timing for what Rish just did is as soon as the crosshairs appear from the mock gunners. And it just works. It also gives bonus damage to null chips. You can also charge null chips, and you'll do kind of a double claw swipe for 180 damage at an enemy. More specifically, I think that's
50 plus
50
10
damage
for
plus 10
yeah.
per buster attack level times 2.
Yep. So right now it's 50 plus 40 because we have our buster is 4 attack, so it's 90 damage times 2. Because
your regular charge shot is also replaced by a machine gun buster.
You can no longer charge your
I
buster.
think that's it. You have lock on as well, so the beast slap and also certain chips like swords, you'll jump in front of the virus and hit them. So
And
just
they-
using it where you're standing.
Try to do a lot of fancy stuff with a lock on, like Wide Sword will jump to the middle to try and hit multiple enemies. This is Circus Man. He's a boss.
Oh, he got M Boomer, the best
M-Boomer?
chip in the game.
M-Boomer's good because it goes fast. It doesn't cause iframes, and it leaves behind grass panels. And we have a flamethrower, and grass panels means it does 2 times damage. So that's how we're gonna treat
It's a
the rest of the
7-second
bosses.
fight.
That was optimal. That's great.
If only I had your attack plus 10. Only needed 2 buster shots.
This is the game for the rest of the run, more or less.
This is why Gregar is faster, and one of the reasons that we suggest Battle Network 6 as a first speed run.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you're
on an
going for,
entry
like, the
level, it's
best-
very straightforward, and there are a lot of small things that you can pick up on and kind of try to
Yeah.
optimize as you improve.
Like, when you're going for the best time, it gets a lot more difficult trying to optimize everything, especially when it comes to some of the fights and Gavel Skip and Celine Dion. You know, all of them.
So it's easier to get into, but certainly once you try to go for the fastest possible time, there's a lot of much more difficult optimizations, and then also just RNG of whether or not you get a random encounter, which can be anywhere from no seconds because you didn't get an encounter to over a minute because you got Nightmare and you didn't run away.
Okay, so there for some reason, like, we're about to join a preliminary tournament or to, like, get the chance to go to the grand opening of Pavilion or whatever.
The
I
Pavilion
think that's it.
Expo. Yeah,
Yeah, the Pavilion Expo.
showcasing all of the cool stuff in Central Town.
For some reason, to start this, you need to talk to the leftmost yellow Navi and not the red one. But after you start it, you can talk to either of them. I don't know why they did that. 3 is kind of a more difficult run to start with. It's not a bad one. either,
Yeah,
though.
so Battle Network 3 largely abuses Varsword, so if you can do Elemental Slash consistently, it won't be too bad. But it's also pretty long compared to most of the other Battle Network games.
It also has...
It does have most of the harder content, and there's RNG manip now. You don't have to use it, of
Yeah.
course.
The accent guy is so loud. Alright, let me just get back here. I assume I'm the accent guy.
Battle Network 3 is a good speed run. It shows off a lot of stuff, but it also has the most things that will give new runners difficulty. There's just so much to it. And even if you use Master Style as a program advance and stuff, until you get more familiar with like all the bosses and how everything works together, your first runs are probably going to be like over 4 hours, whereas your first run of this game will probably be closer to 3 hours.
I think the best way to put it is that BN3 is just very overwhelming as a new speed game. Whereas 6 is pretty straightforward, and honestly BN2 is also fairly straightforward if you don't use manip.
The real thing against BN2 is the entirety of Freeze Man scenario. Just long and boring.
Does anyone speedrun the Star Force series? Well,
Hi.
luckily for you, we have the Star Force representative running BN6 right now. You want to talk about Star Force, Rich?
So I got my start with speedrunning by speedrunning the Star Force series. I first started off by speedrunning Star Force 1. I moved on and did them in order. And yeah, they're all really fun speedruns. There's a lot of optimization still to be made because there's not as many runners. People haven't been running it for nearly as long. But the runs are still pretty cool, especially Star Force 3. Star Force 3 is easily the best game in the Star Force series. And if you're looking into speedrunning any of the Star Force games, I would definitely recommend trying Star Force 3.
What's the feeling on network transmission? Well,
Fortunately
I
for
like
you, we have the developer in here.
yeah, I run network transmission really badly. I think it's very, very fun. A very good speed game, and I like it casually.
Casually, that's impressive. If you want to enjoy network transmission, it's better as a speedrun.
I think it
'Cause
is better as a speedrun, but
The problem with so Mega Man Network Transmission was Capcom saying, what if we take Battle Network elements and mix it with classic platforming gameplay? And I think they did a good job of putting the two together. But the problem is the difficulty curve is completely backwards. The game's really hard at the start, and like if you find a memory card and it's got an NT save on it, almost certainly it's going to be either Fireman, the first boss, or Gutsman, the second boss. But if you make it past that, then you end up so strong that you can literally walk through spikes. They only do 200 damage in that game. It's not insta-kill. But the speedrun fixes that.
So we went out of our way a little while earlier to complete a quiz where we had to answer 5 questions. We got a useless piece of gear that has a lotto code on it, but we're going to need to do that quiz later because it sets up for the second quiz, which is going to be game-changing when we get to it.
Well, you do not have many chips in your pack.
I do not.
So Rich is doing the last folder out of the run here. We got the Expo folder from the last round of the thing that we did right before we did the quiz that last mentioned. And yeah, basically we take out a bunch of null chips. We replace anything in our folder that we still have that isn't very desirable, such as swords, area grab, train arrow if it's in a bag code, sometimes even if it's in a GUG code, anything L coded that's still in our folder. That's pretty much the gist of it.
I prefer having
We also picked up Black Bomb, which hopefully you'll see. It's very cool.
Yeah, I prefer having L codes in my folder if they're null element versus having elemental chips. So that's why I took out the fire hit, which you literally never saw me use. I put in my folder earlier, and I took out the train arrow despite it being good.
See, so the folder differs a little based on runner preference. I tend to leave a fire hit D in my folder if I put it in there because it flows with the Vulcans.
Here we're being scammed into being a lawyer. We need to get past a door that we need to know a law to get past. So we pay 1,000 zenny to become a lawyer in training, and then ask one of the other lawyers what the answer is. And it's
The question-
infuriating.
The question is, what is the punishment for hitting a Mr. Prog on the head?
Why would you do that? That's so mean.
I don't know what it is in the original Japanese version, but considering some of the other things I've seen, it's probably pretty similar.
It's probably like Batsu game or something.
Like how Mega Man's not even sure, like, that's the answer I was given, but I don't think it's correct.
He's still annoyed when he even gets it right.
Yeah, he's like,
So kind of a fun thing to note is we could actually go fight the first form of like the big end game secret boss right now. This is the earliest point in the run you have access to him. And it is in fact Bass, who you probably know from the original classic Mega Man. And obviously if you play Battle Network, you should be familiar with Bass.
Yeah, what they did with Base in the Battle Network series is pretty cool. They made him like an autonomous Navi, and he's usually the penultimate secret boss.
Mm-hmm. I did see a question about it in chat earlier. There is a category of this game, and as there is for all of the battle networks now, I think, although it differs a little depending on the game. In BN6, the high percent category is called Gregar SP, and it includes killing all the post-game bosses, getting all the chips, etc., etc. Fighting Gregar SP is the split time.
Yeah,
And also-
so Lan has to go to court here to testify about Blackbeard when he attacked the Aquarium. They ask him what his occupation is, and his reply is, "I've never owned an octopus."
Forgot about that.
So stupid. It enrages me. How stupid it is.
All right. Hey, Fat Kid, want to explain why we're getting anxious music right now?
Yes. Dad was arrested.
What?
That's about
No.
it.
Why? What did he do?
Is because he was laundering money in Scilab.
Oh.
He was framed because he was apparently found messing with the blackboard at school, and now he's being like electrocuted on a chair. So it seems a bit harsh, but we gotta go save him.
He's been accused of hacking into the judge tree, which is the overall system in place that determines whether people are guilty or not here in Greentown.
When actually he was messing with the blackboard, as Kid said. So we've got a contradiction here. We just got to prove it. Oh, this is the longest text section in the game.
46 text boxes.
It's done.
What's your favorite BN Navi design? My personal favorite is probably Tomahawk Man, Nightman, and I don't know.
As a BN6 runner, I feel obligated to choose Heatman.
Zippo Man?
Look, I'm the plot guy in these things, so I actually have something to talk about, because if I ever say anything to do with game mechanics, like, you need to destroy the missiles, they block your shots, I get called out on me.
So, what is happening in the story right now, Fat Kid?
Well, we went to court, Ito's like, yeah, well, we got him. Sorry, bud. And then Lan's like, I know he was working on the blackboard. So we go talk to Mr. Mark, and he's like, yeah, he was working on, conveniently, your classroom's blackboard. So now we're trying to look at the video evidence to see if we can prove his innocence.
Oh, so there isn't really an overarching plot in the BN series as a whole. Each game is kind of its own experience. There are some plot points that carry, but it's pretty rare for one game to reference a previous game.
Yeah, the closest
Battle
to it would
Network
be...
5 is the only one that does
No,
it.
3 wrapped up the trilogy. It explained gospel
Yeah,
and
so
everything.
Yeah, I was
1,
about to
2,
say
and
BN2
3,
should be
if you read
3.
everything, is pretty consistent, and then 4, 5, and 6 is kind of like a sequel trilogy, I guess.
4 was like,
It's more
oh,
contained.
we should make more Battle Network games. That went really well.
It boils down to Dr. Wily is a bad guy.
My favorite part of
Misunderstood.
BN4... My favorite part of BN4 is when they didn't know how to make Lan aware of the plot, so they just sent a helicopter at him and told him to get on it.
Congratulations for winning the tournament. Here, hop on the helicopter. We have to go save the planet.
I don't want to go too deep into kind of the Battle Network lore in case anyone decides to play this for the first time.
Yeah.
There's
try
a
not to spoil
pretty
anything.
deep connection between Lan and his Navi.
And that Navi's very unique.
He's got a
And
big
that's
tummy.
coincidentally also why
He
full
great
synchro is a
with.
thing.
I have people talking about Habbo Hotel and shit. Damn it.
In my defense, the art style is very similar.
I suppose. The art style changed in 4 to 6. It was different in 1 to 3.
Yeah, the community is a little split on which one's better, but
Yeah,
let's
some
just say
people
half
are
the
wrong.
community is wrong.
Yeah, half the community is wrong and think 4 to 6 looks better, but that's
Excuse me. Okay,
Alright, let's not start on another holy war while I'm the runner, okay?
Oh,
gonna need to talk
Pick
to you in
Sonya's
private after
bag,
the stream.
brother.
Fact.
So, plot-wise, we discovered that somebody had hacked into the video camera that was recording our dad fixing the blackboard, but there was conveniently a robot security guard nearby, so we go and check the footage, and it turns out it was the prosecutor all along who framed our dad. And so we come back and present him with the facts, and he orders the electric bots to zap everybody, proclaiming everyone guilty of existing.
Turns out the automated criminal justice system was made by him, so he can just order it around. Imagine an automated criminal justice system being a good idea.
To find out the password for this door, we just go speak to the person we pay 1,000 zenny to go on a lawyer to, and he's like, oh yeah, it's 153.
Now for,
Cool.
How do you forget it every run?
now for Aerthar's favorite comp.
Yeah, these actually are maybe my favorite dungeon in the series. It's very fun, and also for speedrunning, it's super fast. But the mechanic here is that you can't backtrack on the grass, and then the second mechanic is that is a suggestion.
You have
If
to
you
press all
backtrack
of
on
the
the
switches.
grass, you'll be chased down by a gavel and bopped on the head, and then you'll be sent back to the start of the comp and take some damage.
Well, unless you maybe enter a cutscene before it can catch you.
Yeah, potentially. Maybe. It might be possible.
I'd show it off right now if it weren't for the fact I might actually get caught.
Oh, don't do it now.
Straight at you from the exit. So for a long time, I didn't even actually know you had control while the gavel was chasing you, but when I found that out, some interesting things happened. The average number of encounters through these comps is 4. 2 in the second, 1 in the first, 1 in the third.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, we have heat cross, so all the encounters are very fast.
Unless a corn dodges your copy damage.
Yeah.
All encounters should take me less than 4 seconds. Of like in battle time, I should
A
say.
bunch of rude blue mystery data in our path that we have to dodge.
Yeah, I hope that triggers many people in chat, like OCD, like pick up the blue mystery data,
Yeah.
walk past it.
The one in green HP that we've dodged 3 times now? 4 times maybe? It's a HP memory.
Yeah.
We don't need it. That one is a reg up, I think.
I will be picking one up very shortly. Don't you worry. Not this one though.
Nope. Definitely not that one.
These encounters have all been really nice to me.
Copy
Dang.
damage flies through the corn. Oh my god.
I was really hoping it would, honestly, just to showcase Fat Kid's point.
There's actually a really rare thing that can happen in this comp. I forget who discovered it first, but it's happened to most of the runners at least once, where you can get a frame perfect encounter on a certain pixel between tiles, and you'll trigger the grass and get the encounter in a weird order, and the game freaks out, and as soon as you leave the encounter, it triggers the gavel and just bops you. And there's nothing you can do about it. So like, at some point if you run this game, you might just randomly lose a run to this computer for no reason.
Shoutouts to Forte27, Base Deluxe 27.
Was it Forte? I think it was.
Changed his name at one point. So this is the Celine Dion skip. Oh,
Oh, you saved though. Yeah,
Saved
it's
that.
fine.
What a
Yeah,
jerk.
this is
So this is the Celine Dion skip.
That was a 9,000 IQ
my only
hammer.
contribution to the VN6 round.
That's not true. You found out that we can't use mystery data to
Okay.
slip why.
This is one of 2 contributions to the VN6 runs I have made. I was like running around Judge Street, like thinking of a way to improve it, and I was like, wait a minute, why don't we just turn around?
So
They seem
there's
to-
what Black Bomb does. If you hit it with a fire attack, or if anything at all does fire damage to it, it explodes and hits everything on the enemy side of the field
So
for 250 damage.
that was Judge Man. He doesn't
Also,
have any
that was
attacks
Judge
in
Man.
this game.
Yeah, they seem
So-
to forgot to have programmed Judge Man. I don't know why they kept him as a boss, but it was.
Dude, say that if you fight his RV version. He does not take any prisoners.
It works out kind of exactly the same, but you have a Gregar cross instead.
No, if he's a legate, it works. Okay. That was not Colonel. That was
Nope,
Judge
that was
Man.
Judge Man. So Judge Man's interesting because he actually has a couple of unused attacks in the game files, but we always meme that all of his attacks are unused.
Yeah,
because
you can just
he-
flip him.
It's just saw it happen.
If I didn't get any chips that I wanted drawn, I would have actually let him attack once, because it's slightly faster to do so.
Straw elemental threat.
Yeah. Shoutouts to Prof9 and Gregar Master and a lot of the other modders at the Rockman EXE Zone, which is a Battle Network forums. They've done a lot to break down these games and actually have like a patch out in the video showing Judge Man's unused attacks. He like summons a big book and actually makes it illegal to do certain actions, which is interesting.
So, a fun little fact here. That confused me for a while because I run this on the Japanese version. They changed the answer for the final one. I think it's still in the same place, but instead of like 31, it's 30. So that was a bit weird.
It's all the same options, and the between 1, 2, and 3, it's still 2, but it's like 30 and then 31, and they get switched in the English version. Like it's the same slot, and all the options
Yeah.
are identical, but just
Interesting.
the answer is different for some reason.
Okay, so
And
we were
so-
supposed to go to Skytown. Why did we go back to the aquarium to do a quiz?
Yeah, so we went to the aquarium to do a quiz. You'll have seen Urish install a program called Slip Runner in his Navi Cust. That is the program that we got from the quiz. This program is very, very fast. So fast, in fact, that we went completely out of our way to Seaside right now at the earliest opportunity to get this program. And essentially what it does 2 things. One, you'll see very shortly, Urish is about to jack into a comp, and you'll see him move very quickly in a slipping animation up and right. And that's the first thing that it does. And it's a very fast movement option, and you can't get encounters while you're slipping, obviously. And the second thing it does is it enables auto run, which means that you can run around at running speed instead of walking speed without holding the B button. And way early in the run, we mentioned that your step counter, which determines how often you get encounter checks, increments by 2 when running and 1 while walking. However, what this actually does is increment by 2 while holding B and 1 while not holding B. So since we can move at running speed without holding B now, we get half as many steps, which equates to half as many encounter checks, which equates to even less than half as many encounters. And that is why this program saves so much time. Although the task also goes out of its way to get it, even though it doesn't get encounters anyway. So the slipping itself also saves a ton of time. We also grabbed a link there for later use as Heatman. I'll be coming back to this area as Heatman later on. It's a quick shortcut between Lands HP and Skytown HP.
These fights are really cool. What's going on here is there are a bunch of different sky gauntlets, and they get progressively harder. The fights are the same every time, so because we've got copy damage on Reg and access to Heat Cross and then a couple good chips in our folder, Rich has played this enough that depending on the draw that he gets, he's going to pick what should be the best strategy. Sometimes copy damage doesn't quite work right. Kid will defend that. But otherwise, when it does play out nicely, he'll clear these fights very quickly using copy damage to multi-hit. this section is a lot of fun for the runners, and one of the places where you can gain or lose a lot of time depending on how familiar you are with the game and the mechanics.
Not only does our Buster do 130 damage of fire, which is good against the usually high health grass enemies, but it also tags 3 panels, which enemies will often multi-walk over. So in a little while, for example, we'll see airplanes that have a lot of HP, and they'll just drive into all of the fire and take a ton of damage.
Another kind of unique type of virus that we'll be seeing in this set of fights for the first time is the pulse bulb. They're absolutely horrible. No one that runs this game likes pulse bulbs. They're bullies. They are armored, so you need a breaking chip to be able to damage them. The copy damage goes through, as we will hopefully see in the fight. I believe it's the next one. It's either 3 or 4.
I like pulse bulbs.
The ideal draw for the pulse bulb fight is just like Elm Trap or M Boomer, and there's no real good way to deal with them. The first 2 fights with them involved are annoying, but you're not at risk of dying. The last fight we do with a pulse bulb, at least the last fixed encounter with a pulse bulb, is really dangerous and probably the most dangerous fight in the run.
You pulse buffering pulse bulbs?
He's trying to copy in Mega Boomer to get the double kill.
Oh, that makes sense.
I want to consider where they're moving because I want to make sure that I get the right one hit, but I still messed it up.
Because it's difficult. Whichever one sees you first is going to lock onto you and then zip in front of you, and the other one's going to keep moving. So you kind of have to hit one, bait the other, then dodge it, hit the copy damage, and then fire off the Mega Boomer, which only hits the outside panels. So. Oh, and rush food. So there's an optional item that we picked up earlier, rush food, and there are these specific places that you can use it that open up shortcuts. And this one saves a tremendous amount of time because otherwise you'd have to walk all the way around Sky 2. And this lets us more quickly get to the next gauntlet, as well as a shortcut to the Undernet that we're going to use many times throughout the run.
Optimizing these fights kind of just takes a lot of practice and experience. For new runners, it's best to kind of just learn how to do them all with copy damage and heat cross, and then build on it from there.
For a lot of them, that's still the fastest way you can do it. Draw doesn't matter.
For sure. For example, these golems, I think the virus is called Gregar. They take half as much. They have armor, so they take 50% damage from all sources. But copy damage ignores that completely. So we actually even copy the type advantage from hitting the grass virus and go through all 280 health in one shot. We'll see quite often Rush will react to his chip draws like there and cancel heat cross and just take the chip if he can clear the encounter consistently.
Yeah, because it takes a bit of time to transition into heat cross, so it's a little faster. This is the area where I found out you softlock by slip running into a GMD in the Japanese version. For some reason, I pointlessly picked up an M cannon, and that was my downfall.
So specifically, there's a glitch that we're going to see later on called slipwalk, and if you do that and pick up an item, for example, a blue mystery data, the game self-locks. If you're on the Japanese version only, it's completely safe to do so on the English version. However, in any version, if you touch a warp point, you will soft lock.
And I did it again, because Terra told me to do it off the GMD in Aquarium. No, Pavilion 1.
That would have been faster.
It would have.
No, you should have told me.
It is, in fact, faster. You'll see me do it.
It isn't on the Japanese version, let me tell you. In fact, I lost about 2 hours. God damn it.
Here's another annoying pulse bulb fight.
Luckily, this one's not bad at all.
There's only one. Wow, Rish, you did that fight literally blind.
Yeah.
The fight with
This
the
fight's
champion
cool.
is very cool. I like this one. This is a good example of an enemy jumping between hitboxes of your heat cross buster.
I should have showed it off. God dang it.
Oh no, you
So, there's only a couple places where it's actually worth doing, but in this game, we talked like at the tutorial, you can take ships that have the same code or of the same type, and there he had Cannon A, Cannon B, and Cannon Star, and Asterisk is a wild card. And if you take Cannon like ABC, 3 different codes alphabetically, they form together into one attack. This is called a program advance, and they can be pretty powerful. There's a little bit of animation time lost forming the program advance, but there's a few fights where being able to one-shot a lot of damage is quite useful. So
Okay, so that Sky Gauntlet's done. And then we hear that Mix Navi is in trouble in Undernet. So Mega Man pretends to care and goes to save him.
It's the only PA that's going to be in the folder, but he could potentially draw it again later.
Do you not use the warp there? Oh, I guess that's only a Heat Man. So reset the encounter.
We stopped using the warp as Mega Man because you don't really need to with Slip Runner,
Yeah.
and we don't pick up the expand memory in that comp anymore. So now we're off to get Heat Man again to save Mega Man again.
deja vu. There's a consideration to get a let cross, right? In the speed run and the story, there's only one required cross you have to get, and in Gregar that's heat cross. There are 5 other optional crosses that you can get at various points, and in Gregar one of the others is a let cross. And if you had that, you could start in the sky area, and it saves coming all the way back to school to get Heat Man. You want to talk a little bit about a let cross, Arathar, and like why it might be worth getting, especially for newer runners?
So realistically, Heat Cross costs about 1 minute. However, if you're a less experienced runner, it could add a lot of consistency against certain fights, such as Diveman EX, as well as a couple of the under BBS fights that we'll see in a segment later are nicer if you have Heat Cross, or Elect Cross, rather.
Muffins asks a very thought-provoking question, which is, does Slip Runner make zips in Mega Man classic games canon?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can't believe they tried to retroactively change the plot in Mega Man Powered Up when they removed the zip weapon in Mega Man 1. How could they?
So since Heat Man doesn't have Slip Run, he's more likely to get encounters, and because the charge shot doesn't hit the back row, we're more reliant on ships. And these fights are just like a little bit slower and a little bit more RNG dependent in general. And this is unfortunate.
Ooh.
So if he hadn't gotten that encounter, whenever you go to a new area, it resets your step counter to 0. So we use that warp to reset our step counter to hopefully not get a random encounter. But there's still a 10% chance that you do.
It would have been so infuriating if I got an encounter on the way back too, or on the way to Mega Man.
Yeah, that one's the worst when you've already gone into the comp. Yeah, so He-Man's the Link Navi, so whenever Mega Man's incapacitated, we can go use one of our Link Navis to save him. It's a thing you can do in VN6. You can operate them anytime, but there are a couple plot points where they're required. Heatman's the only one we have in the speedrun.
Yeah, but you can
Unless,
also use
as we spoke about earlier, you could potentially pick up Elecman and not lose much time, if any.
So the weather's going out of control, kid. Why is it so windy today?
Because Mr. Weather, his element man, is doing a thing, and Mr. Weather is not doing a thing because of it.
So
And
just like the
sky
legal
areas in the
system
sky.
being controlled by an electronic tree, the weather is also controlled by electronics in central area.
Oh, the random trees and stuff on the internet is a mechanic to do with the Link Navis. I think Heatman just burns them down.
Tomahawk.
Tomahawk isn't in this one, is he?
Nope.
Heatman does burn them down in Gregar. Tomahawk Man cuts them in Falzar.
Ah.
Wow, I knew something Terra didn't for once. So I'm gonna
Wow.
take this and then I'm gonna remember it.
I
Click
believe
it.
there are
Can we
four-
both be correct?
No.
We're just on different versions. All right.
No.
Some of the reasons are really weird. Like in this game, Charge Man gets rid of the geysers, but in yeah, he's a fire Navi, by the way. But in
He's a
Falzar,
train.
Spout Man does it, and you get them at such different points in the run as well.
Each of the Link Navis can clear 2 different types of obstacles. I think there are 5 in total, and it is important for like Gregar SP, but not for this run. Another question that I saw in chat was, where's Mr. Famous? He shows up as a post-game shop, but we don't actually get to fight him.
Oh,
He's not
this
just
is
post-game.
questionable.
I like
You-
he appears
Oh my god!
before Pavilion
What a fight.
Expo.
What? You had Elm Trap, you maniac!
He's gonna show off the swag
That's no
version.
fun.
So Black
You have
Bomb.
Buster Bug. That could have been horrible.
That fight is dangerous because it's full of water element, and if as heat cross you get hit by water, you get canceled out of that cross. You go back to Mega Man, take a lot of damage, and you just end up trapped in a bubble, and it's really slow. So here you're getting to see a little bit of Beast Out and charging null chips, as well as like using copy damage. So it can be pretty good given the right fight and the right chip draw. In general, Heat Cross is going to be better, but Water Viruses in particular, where you're like, maybe we'll try Beast Out.
There's a pretty dumb cutscene that appears here as well to do with an umbrella or a parasol. I think it's an umbrella. You randomly get given an umbrella by the weather computer for absolutely no reason. And Lan's like, oh, okay, thanks. And it's just so that they can do this like one gag in a cutscene where Lan jumps off a ledge. It's pretty weird.
It's a promotional item. Lan has a strong history with umbrellas.
He does.
So- Someone's asking about elemental beast outs in chat, and we do use Cross Beast once in the run, potentially twice, but it's not fully intentional the first time. You might potentially see it on Dive Maniacs.
It will. It'll be gone 2 seconds later.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll get about one charge shot off, and then lose. the
I
cross.
won't even. I will intentionally get hit.
Shoutouts to BXP, the first person to use Heat Beast on Gregar.
Yeah, so the strat for the final boss, Gregar, involves Heat Beast. We'll explain that and show it off.
I miss BXP.
Hey guys,
In case.
thanks for watching.
The major difference between Falzar Tech and Gregar Tech is Falzar has a longer required cross scenario, and the Beast Out is worse, and the cross does half as much damage.
Yeah, you're far more reliant, just like on the regular chips in Battle Network 6, which is unfortunate because Battle Network 6 is too long and doesn't have any good chips, according to the internet. So
The internet claims a lot of things, like Stone Man's impossible to beat in BN1.
Gok gok.
God.
Oh, right. So this is the weather comps. I guess last you want to explain the rainbow macaroni and the typhoon?
Sure. So we're gonna hop on this cloud here and run around and grab 7 colors of rainbow macaroni. Some of them are floating just where we can pick them up in the cloud, otherwise we're gonna have to dock. We can't actually get virus encounters while we're on the cloud, so he's gonna take some very particular movement to try and avoid any virus encounters at all. Most of the time he's gonna get one, but it's possible to dodge them. Once we've collected all the rainbow macaroni, there's a swirling typhoon. The one in this comp moves pretty slowly, but in the other comps there's 2, and they're faster. You have to surround them, and then they'll disappear. If you run into them, your cloud has 3 health before it drops you, and you have to go pick up a new cloud, which probably means another encounter. They can also troll you pretty hard. If they're up against a wall, you can't surround them, and since they move fast, they can jam you into a wall. You control them back, though. If the 2 of them get close, you can double surround 2 with a 1 loop, and that's nice and fast, but hard to do.
Mm-hmm. And if you're Fat Kid, you can time the final tornado with the 3rd hit on your cloud and fall down without having to go dock it, which is even faster.
Dude, I used to be the king of typhoons. And now I can't even get both of them with a single perfect circle.
A perfect box. Dude, you're talking about a box.
Shoutouts to Cheese and Cereal. Another Battle Network 6, former Battle Network 6 runner.
Oh, Weatherman. The Weatherman isn't the guy like doing it intentionally or whatever. It's Element Man.
Ooh.
Is causing the weather comp to go in.
So that's cross cancel. Heat element hit by water attack.
Yeah, I just wanted to show it off.
Yeah, I appreciate the demonstration, Rish.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, while using the Heat Buster, we often want to get hit. It has a long
Whoa.
animation lag after we fired it, so we often want to get hit to cancel us out of that animation, just not by water attacks.
Uh-huh.
These typhoons are really trolly. Sometimes they're pretty bad. These comps are very short most of the time, though.
I've never really paid attention, but what kind of a GMD location is that? Just like right in the middle.
Yeah, the
Oh.
GMD are put in really weird spots in the weather comps. I guess because they're so big.
It's like that offset BMD in Battle Network 2. It's like, why? Why?
So this looks really weird, but he wants to pick up a specific macaroni last for the lowest chance of an encounter. It looks like he's going to get it here. So slipping into this activates a text box immediately, and then if you hold B down and left, you'll get back off without getting an encounter check.
Nice. Because when you're slipping, your step counter is increasing, but it's not until you stop that it actually the difference gets added. And if you slip into something, like back onto the cloud, it just drops all of the additional steps you took.
So
This
when
is
he
element.
When he touched the wall at the bottom of the ramp there, he did get an encounter check, but just one.
Mhm. So this is element, man. What does he do?
He moves around 3 times, I think, and then summons the tornadoes. And every 3rd attack, he will switch forms to a different
He'll try
element.
to.
Unless you're last, or me.
Unless you're last. He always goes grass first, which is kind of a bad plan
Unfortunate for him.
because we have a heat buster, and so that was a boss called Element Man.
He even spawns grass tiles when he uses his grass
He
attack to
does.
heal off of.
Funnily
Allegedly.
enough, yeah. The one time in the second refight, it's actually a bad thing if he moves on to a grass panel, because it'll heal him by 1. And he'll be at the perfect HP that I have to buster him again. But usually him going on to grass panels is a good thing.
And that means that your buster will clog 8 times in a row.
Mhm. Oh wait, I'm Mega Man.
Hi, Mega Man.
I can press B and go fast.
So Sky Area 1's actually one of the areas that he could get a random encounter. But he's been pretty fortunate so far.
So we're looking for a moonstone, is that right?
Yeah, we need to evolve some Pokemon, so
Of course.
part of the plot. This is the last round of the
Pavilion Operator Navi selection test.
Thank you.
was close enough.
I always
The town
forget
is
what it
holding
is.
a Pavilion Expo to... I forget the reason, because I've not read the text or cutscenes in several years. Fat Kid, you play this game.
Somewhat. Why? What's the question?
What's up with the pavilion again? It's run by the mayor / principal. I forget the reasoning, however.
It was a trap.
So
Spoilers?
this is accurate. The reason that you moved to Central Town in the first place, because usually Lan and his family's in ACDC Town, but they moved to Central because they're starting up a Pavilion Expo to showcase a lot of the technology in the surrounding areas, trying to integrate it into different things like the tree for the legal system or Mr. Weather for the weather. And so, like, network traffic was going to increase, and your dad was going to come in because he's the network expert to help with that. And to try to decide, they're also showing off copybot technology. And to try to decide which Navi should operate the copybot that's going to show people around this new expo, they're having the selection test. But it's a trap. Thank you, kid.
No problem. That was a
So
much better explanation.
yeah, we had to go to the Undernet because that's supposedly where the Moonstone is, but there's a door blocking our way that Navi told us that essentially the person who would know what the password is currently in jail because they're a bad person. And then we go to Greentown to try and find this person. We were told they have taken up a part-time job by the sea, indicating go to Seaside. And we talked to that waitress lady from BN2 essentially. And she tells us the password is money hats.
Lan questions this, as they did the law. Something about these doors just don't sound right.
Did they ever explain what the Moonstone is?
Nope.
I didn't think so.
I don't
sw-
believe so.
It feels like it's just a prop, but at the same time, there's Undernet Navis just like looking at it. So
Well, because it's floating in the distance in the net.
How are you
Yeah.
supposed to get to that?
How
I
did
can't
that get
jump
over
off the
there?
platform. What do you mean invisible pathway?
dang.
I like my head cannon that they just had a dev object and they were like, oh, that looks kind of cool. Why don't we just use that?
The gliding is caused by a Navi customizer program called Slip Runner.
That was an amazing copy damage.
I don't want to hear it. I was I really expected that machine sword virus to move to the middle.
So he just entered that, teleporter there just to reset his step counter so he didn't get an encounter.
And we got the Moonstone, so we won the contest, and now we're gonna go brag to all of the who are going to advertise their class to us, and then we're gonna get a bed.
One of them's a train operator who saved our life from those guys trying to summon the net beast out of us again, and the other one's an assassin who works at our school.
He's a teacher, but he's an assassin.
Just battle network things.
Don't you know all teachers have a dark and secret past?
Apparently, I mean, you've got Higsby, who tried to take over the school just for rare chips. You've got an assassin. You've got Mr. Match. And Mock. Oh my gosh, everyone. And the principal.
BN1,
Oh,
in BN1, even the Miss Mari's sister is a part of World 3.
that's true. Twin. Teaching summer
It's
school.
an X part of
My
World 3.
teacher was just a pleasant old lady that gave me a lift when it was raining. They're not all bad.
So now we're back in ACDC town. So we're going to talk to all of our not friends so that we can advance the story.
And now we're gonna go play on the internet with our friends, like the good old days.
We could hang out in the park, but the internet's cooler.
Yeah, as I found out, you only, well, because I was told, you only need to talk to everyone that isn't actually Lan's friends.
Dang.
So you can potentially make it to the end of where he's headed without getting an encounter. Although in this case, it pretty much breaks even.
Just really hated that cannon.
Wow.
What was that? A 10 damage buster shot? Wow.
Yes.
So one of the side effects of Buster Bug is that sometimes the Buster will clog and not do any damage, but sometimes the Buster will just deal charge shot damage.
It's all of the damage.
It was 40 damage, in fact. Well, 50
Actually,
because that was heat cross.
50 if you're in heat. Yep.
Yeah. Because that was heat cross, so my buster is +5. Dang.
Wow, that's unlucky.
That is an aggressive sortie.
He was going for it.
It did a pretty good job of distinguishing the sorties from each other in this game. The normal one kind of walks towards you, that one jumps around, and the level 3s teleport.
Here we have the first instance of
Right,
slipwalk.
so this is a glitch called Slipwalk. By interacting with a Navi or object, although we don't really recommend objects if you're playing the Japanese version, you can initiate this state, which we call the Slipwalk state. You're in a... The game thinks you're slip running, but you have normal control and you move at regular running speed. Can't get an encounter while this is going. If you step on a warp, it softwalks the game, but Rish has hit B beforehand to cancel the Slipwalk effect. So he is safe. The other way to cancel it is to hit a wall. If you do hit a wall, you'll...
Dang.
So
Yeah, if you do hit a wall, you will get an encounter check. But just one when the effect ends.
Fuck it. What was that mystery data? It looked a little different.
That was a gold mystery data. There's a rare chance that when you jack in, there will be a gold mystery data somewhere on the net in like one of the GMD spawn locations. And they have a different drop table that can be lots of different things. It can be 10,000 Zenny, as you saw there, 10 bug frags. Just, yeah.
It can also be various rare chips like Guardians in the loot pool. Most of the SP Navi chips are in the loot pool.
You can even get
It's
like
variables.
some of the chips that were only in the Japanese version, right? And actually work.
I think Django and Gundel Soul work. Or no. Either Django or Gundel Soul and Otenku don't crash the game. Otenku doesn't particularly work though. Some of them though do crash the game.
It is pretty interesting. Some of the content got cut from the English version because text takes up a lot more space in English compared to Japanese. And some of the things they took out were battleships, like related to elements from the content, but you can still get them from the Gold Mystery Data drop table.
I don't
EX
think
fights.
that they would run junk data like in BN5.
This is Blast Man
So-
again.
Yeah, so this is Blastman. Notice he's standing behind a cube, so he's always going to come to the front to do a fire attack.
I'd like to imagine Rish has just closed his eyes right now.
Yeah, I needed a
I
good
do.
nap right there. All right, we're back.
Yeah,
Now
so
for the
that's
hard fight.
Blastman EX is even harder than the first Blastman. Thankfully, Dive Man EX is easier.
All right.
Black Bomb's a pretty good turn 1 draw.
Ooh. Alright.
Nice.
That was some good damage.
That was some good damage.
Not a good draw off of it, but
It'll be fine. So this is Beast out charging chips. This is the first time I think we've seen that so far.
Other than
Not
the
only-
triple puffy fight, but yes.
He did use it in Triple Puffy Fight.
That's okay. I forgot to.
So, our friends Navis had been kidnapped by Blastman and Diveman, and so we went to save them. And then Circus Man showed back up, and essentially, ate Mega Man. So we no longer have Mega Man right now.
So let's just get this straight, right? Circus Man ate the other Psy Beast, so that's in his stomach. And then Mega Man absorbed Greg. And then Circus Man then ate Mega Man. So Circus Man has Falzar, Greg, and Mega Man all in his stomach.
Currently not Falzar because it's already been dumped somewhere
it
else.
got dumped out. But
So yeah.
why is Circus Man not the main villain?
So, we go home, we're just gonna chill, and then we see on the TV that Mega Man is G-Beast. He's beasted out, and he's going crazy in Seaside. So we go there, talk to him, and he runs away to the internet. Then we get an email from our teacher, Mr. Mock, who tells us to come to Sky area, because he wants to talk.
Notably,
hip with a
I
lingo.
want to talk.
Mega Man's running around in G-Beast form in a copy bot. So
Yes.
in the real world, and they're not supposed to be able to cause much harm because they can't use attacks or whatnot, but G-Beast doesn't care, and maybe that's a little bit of foreshadowing.
I like how in Falzar, he's literally fly. Copy bots can just fly.
So our teacher, Mr. Mock, tells us that he's been a part of World 3 this entire time. He has his reasons, don't worry. And then he tells us Mega Man has run to the underground area where the G-Beasts, or the Psy-Beasts were initially sort of locked up. So we're going to go use Heat Man to go try and find him.
And this is where loads of revelations come to light that everybody was expecting if they read any of the text boxes. It turns out the mayor/principal may not have been the nicest guy. The one that didn't even give Lan an ID to enter the school.
So we're going to talk to this official Navi right here. And he's going to tell us that Mega Man is in fact in there, but there's a sort of force field surrounding it that we need to get deactivated, because if Heat Man were to jump down there, he'd be essentially disintegrated. So we need the mayor/principal to deactivate it. Unfortunately, he's in a meeting. This little security bot is blocking our way. So we're going to go figure out what to do. And of course, we're going to run into our good friend, the troublemaker Mick. He's going to basically mess with that little board right there, and all of the security bots in the school decide to swarm him. Because they all need to deal with a 12-year-old being a troublemaker.
I mean, in fairness, it is at least consistent, since they all swarmed Lan when he just walked in without an ID.
Yep.
But he's not breathing fire on him.
So, because the way was no longer blocked, we learned that the principal, who was in a meeting with Captain Blackbeard. So he's been the sponsor of World 3 this entire time, and is in fact evil. And as they're about to beat up Lan, Chod shows up and saves the day. who's been undercover this entire time.
Yeah, somehow nobody knew who he was except every single player that has played this game because it's so obvious.
Now we get Soul Weapons Part 3.
Yep.
You can see this time around we have access to a lot more weapons than before. That's because these areas are a lot more complicated.
Look, they couldn't beat them up because Chord knows the ninja arts or whatever.
They actually do try to beat Lan up later, but either Mock or Barrel stops them. I forget which.
Mr. Mock.
Well, they also sort of succeed.
They're actually beating up
Well, yeah.
Mr. Well, yeah, they do electrocute Lan.
Yeah, they electrocute him until he passes out, so they kind of succeed.
And then later, they're beating up Barrel. Lan shows up and they're gonna beat up him, and Mr. Mock comes in and uses jujitsu and beats them up.
Yeah, for some reason this was the game that they remembered. Oh yeah, not everything's solved by net battling. We can just punch the kid. Fortunately, there's other adults around that know Kung Fu. So. Although, also in fairness, most of the time his only competition is like an old man with arthritis. So I can understand him not wanting to get into a fist fight with Lan.
We've got one more section of soul weapons, and then after that we've got two fights. One of them more difficult than the other. What should we be looking for, and like the strategies that the enemies are going to use, and the chips that we hope to draw?
So for the first of the two fights, we're going to be fighting Mega Man in his G-Beast form, which is just the beast out form we have access to when we are using Mega Man. G-Beast will move 6 times and then snap in front of you and do a claw attack. The attack will either do 2 claws, and that's the one we want to see, or 1 claw and then nothing, or if it hits, it'll do a gun. This was interesting. Ideally, we want to draw M-Boomer on that fight, and then hopefully we also want him to do the double claw attack so we can counter it. If he does single claw, we can't counter him. So it's kind of the second really bad fight after Dive Man version 1, where it's RNG whether we can counter the boss or not.
Mm-hmm.
I would just
the
like
second
to point
fight,
out,
though, is Colonel, and Colonel is super consistent and very fun.
I would
And
just like to
for the
point
draws
out
on that fight, M-Boomer is the only thing that could even conceivably speed it up.
Black Bomb.
Potentially.
It does very consistently, 4 seconds at least. But yeah, I would like to point out that mistake that I made with the evil spirits I've done in the past. The last time was because I was thinking too hard about something, and that time I swear the game decided that it wanted me to use a longsword there.
It's okay. You don't actually... Oh my gosh, please.
I was just going to assume that you were converting time zones during that selection.
Let me counter hit you.
Yes.
Oh my.
Oh my god. It happened again.
So that was a really good fight.
That's as good. That's the best that fight can go, pretty much. And you got Black Bomb for Colonel too, so that's good.
I'll see these
So
4
Colonel
seconds.
has kind of a thing. You can, by staggering him and always standing in range of cross div, you can make him just keep doing cross div. So that happens.
So normally that fight takes about 21 seconds. If you're unlucky, it'll take 23 seconds. And if you draw Black Bomb, it's around 17. And then if you draw M-Boomer, it can take anywhere from 13 to 17 seconds. Based on, if he steps on grass panels.
Oh, this is where Lan got electrocuted. He's fine.
Yeah.
I remember I was telling Erithar about that during one of his runs. He was like, he didn't believe me, so I actually had to look up a Let's Play and show him a clip of it, and he was like, oh.
I
What?
still have no recollection of that scene. He does get electrocuted in a few other games too, though.
Yeah, BN1 gets radiated, and BN2 jumps out a 2-story window, and BN3.
So the principal is not Dr. Wily. He sponsored Dr. Wily, as in he's basically rich and just paying for all of the World 3's operations.
Yeah, this is a Capcom game, so the rich people is the bad one. That was a sentence that made sense, by the way. Don't read too much into it.
Hello?
Yai is like the main overarching villain in the series.
I agree. She doesn't give us all of her money. It'll be much more useful to us.
And Glide is the virus master, as we'll see shortly.
No, we won't.
Maybe.
I'm gonna do Erithar's little...
Save.
Not yet, don't worry.
No, but when it comes to
I know.
This is the under BBS fights. One of these in particular
Ah.
is quite not good.
The slide is a Navi customizer program called Slip Run. You get it from the second quiz.
Alright. Not this fight yet, but...
Yeah, these are the hardest fights in the game. Specifically, just got
Specifically the third one.
Yeah, but considering you have to do them all together, you know, having lower health when you get into the next one doesn't help.
Huh.
Yeah, speaking of that,
Yeah.
please save.
Remember when Methodical did this in a marathon and didn't save because he didn't want to override his con save?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was at Magfest. Oh, you got... Okay, well...
that should be fine.
Thinking.
Thinking of how to properly do that so that I don't mess it up and then just die. Just wanted to
Okay,
make sure.
That's the difficult fight, but he drew M-Boomer, so it wasn't the difficult fight.
Yeah, that fight's really bad.
Yeah. If you don't draw M Boomer or Elm Trap, that fight can go disastrously. As was seen in a run I did literally yesterday.
People are creating headcanons that Wily's the creator of Glide. I'm confused as to what this conversation is.
I could theoretically say before this one. This one's a little annoying sometimes, but...
Usually you just tank
Yes.
one hit on this one and it's fine.
To answer a question in chat, Colonel is evil in this one because Dr. Wily removed all of the goodness from him, and that is that Iris girl who's walking around.
To be fair,
So-
that was done well before BN5.
Yes.
The real reason that Colonel's evil is because he only listens to Beryl, and Beryl owes Dr. Wily a debt. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Dr.
Because-
Wily's kind of like his foster father.
Yeah, you bought
Yeah.
up Barrel.
All right.
And coincidentally, the reason he helped you in BN5 is because Wily doesn't like Regal and he wants him to be stopped.
It's really weird because Regal is Wily. Wait,
Regal's like literally Wily's son, I think, isn't he? Or
yeah,
grandson or something?
no, son, because
Not that
Wily,
old.
like this.
He is though.
Oh wait, hold on. This is
Well,
Talk to your friends. Talk to your friends.
Wily's that old.
yeah, no. It's like the lore is essentially Wily and Light had children, which are Regal and your father.
You eat
You
Cheerios, Hikari.
You eat Chigo. Thanks, Martin.
That's not even how I said it. Used to say Yui Koro, but it's Yuichiro, yeah. But that was...
So, because we won the Pavilion Operator Navi Selection test, we get early access to the expo. And so we're going to invite all our friends to come with.
And this is the second time we use slip block in the run. It's very clean, by the way. Good job.
Somebody asks, why do you exit the stairs of the school diagonally instead of doing a hard perpendicular turn? Doesn't that waste time?
Oh, so because there are a couple things that you can be aware of regarding movement when you're speedrunning the Battle
movement
Network
is
series.
actually really complex just because it's isometric. It gets kind of confusing.
Yeah, so because of the way the isometric view is working, there is more distance left to right than up to down. So we want to do completely horizontal movement as infrequently as possible. And the other thing is that changing direction stops your movement for one frame. So if he's running straight down, he's not going to cut towards the exit, or straight up for that matter, because it would waste one frame. But if he's moving left or right, he will cut because it will save more than one frame.
Talk to mom.
Yeah, Land's grandpa is Dr. Light from classic sort of, but not. That's what it was based on, though.
It's like, I don't know if this is like a theory or if this is what actually Capcom is like confirmed it or not, but essentially Dr. Light, like Battle Network series is an alternate universe where Dr. Light, instead of looking into robotics, decides to look into the internet.
It was explained in BN5. Dr. Light got the funding for internet instead of Dr. Wily getting funding for creating robots. And that's revealed at the end of BN5.
I hope you enjoy this 9-second loop of a song, by the way.
I don't.
You're never going to hear it ever again.
It's
Thank
better
God.
than permanent panic music.
It is. Still. Another good question has come in. Why was Batman never in a Mega Man game?
I think it's just a funding issue.
Probably.
You'd think Batman would be able to fund it himself, but dang.
Why was Mega Man never in a Batman game?
Ignore Short, he just beat up somebody. It's nothing too interesting going on.
So we get surrounded there. Chad decides to be a hero and tell us to just go on without him. He'll catch up with us shortly. As is normal, you just gotta look for the right book, and you pull the book, and a secret passageway opens up behind the bookshelf, of course. And now we're going to start the essentially replaying through some of the different areas. So this is very similar to the Aqua Rum comps that you might have seen earlier. Same exact gimmick.
This is basically, the Mega Man boss rush section. BN has them as well in most games.
The only difference this time is that we have new toys. So we will be making heavy use of slip block here and then slip runs later on.
Coming up
this
is also a very cool trick.
Really
Not
the
in
first
this
time we kind of majorly use slip block through the whole comp. There are a lot of turns too, so it's kind of takes a little bit of practice, not too much. And yes, there is a really cool trick coming up soon.
What?
Well,
Wait, what?
That has never happened before.
That's not even a
Actually,
meme.
that has happened before on GDQ stream back in like 2014 when
Really?
Method was doing it in a
Method?
bonus game.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was the last bonus game of like AGDQ 14 or something like that, where you put the prog in the wrong comp, or in the wrong tank. If you put a prog in
Oh,
the wrong
that's
tank,
what happened.
it gets reset. And
I thought he got
you
around
fight a
it.
virus.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. That was my mistake then. I yeah, I forgot
So-
that I'm doing a different route from Arethar's. It's like the first time I've actually forgotten that.
Yeah, this comp got rerouted a little bit in the English version, and usually the first prog would go into that tank.
But because it's faster to slipwalk off of a GMD than it is to talk to that prog like I had to. Unfortunately, I don't have the GMD there anymore, so as a result, picking up that prog is oh god.
This is fun.
there are more things you can slipwalk on. It's
Yeah,
fine.
slipwalking here is.
You
so
can't slipwalk on
incredibly
these.
difficult.
I can't. Okay, whatever. Ooh, hello.
That's a fast prog.
Yeah, the actual progs you pick up don't count as like anything. They're like barely even entities apparently. So the way interacting works with them is unique.
Okay. Anyway. It's also interesting that putting the prog in the wrong tank gets rid of slipwalk.
I guess since it reloads the area.
Yeah,
Resets your state.
it,
Well, at least you can't get this one wrong.
Yes.
We're lucky it didn't crash, to be honest. That could have been a soft lock.
I've tested encounters before. It's fine.
Okay.
That would have been interesting learning experience.
Screen transitions will still work as normal. It's just like it for some reason the game can't move Mega Man with warps.
All right,
It really
coming
does
up,
not like that.
it's a really cool trick called Gavel skip. I'm gonna save before it just because messing it up doesn't necessarily mean I die, but it lowers my health to a point where I might die
And
afterwards.
it's slower than just save resetting getting caught.
Gavel.
Yeah, so this is called Gavel skip, and it speaks for itself. It's very impressive. I can't really explain how to do this. You just kind of go. This is probably the hardest thing to do in the run. It saves about 20 seconds if you get it first try.
Okay. That's that.
So there are two scary points while doing this, and you got past the last one.
Well, I'm getting very confused by the Benny Hill thing.
It's the best.
Good draw. Good draw.
Ooh, M Boomer.
No, this is not the legit in-game music.
Boy, I messed this up.
It's not.
This, no, this was just a meme that I did when racing and running the game. I'd play the Benny Hill theme while doing Gavel skip. And now it just feels like it's wrong to do it without it.
All right.
So that
Yeah,
that just
thanks,
about
Muffin.
broke even, I think. With it might have still saved a couple seconds actually, with how early you lost it.
Okay.
So, this comp.
Oh, hi, Typhoon.
This is a comp. So
Yeah.
there's a chance to get no encounter in here, but you're pretty much always going to get one encounter. And there's a specific encounter that likes to show up in Rish's runs.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
The virus is called a nightmare, and it can only be damaged by swords. If you hadn't noticed, we took all of the swords out of our folder. And our run rate is very, very low. Oh my god, there are no holes. Price.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was fine. Everything is okay.
That was the last encounter check I could get to.
If you end up getting a nightmare encounter and the game just decides that you don't run from it because you do have a really low chance. You can
Wait.
potentially get stuck for a long time in that fight.
Can you like not be a
Also, the Typhoons are mega trolls in this comp.
And every comp.
Well, this one in
is
particular, because the
so
clouds are so close quarters, it gets
Yeah,
stuck on the
sure.
walls a lot and bounces around. Oh, it's just horrible.
Okay.
So yeah, there's other things to do with the shadow fight that I'm not sure you mentioned. Like, if you don't run away from it in 3 turns, then bad things happen.
So if you can't get away within 3 turns, the game does a weird RNG bug, and you get locked out of being able to get away for 2 more turns.
Yeah, if people have played BN5, this is actually pretty similar to something in that game. If you were playing casually, you might have noticed for some reason in the first internet area, there's this random encounter with 2 metas that you just can't run from. The run rate for that is like 500 HP more than the rest of the encounters next to them. It's really bizarre. And then if you don't run away in 3 turns, it takes like 10.
So since we've already beaten Blast Man, we do his comp last, and Circus Man takes over this one. And we've got Evil Spirits instead of burning programs. The mechanics are the same, though.
Yeah.
If you're greedy with your slip run like I am, you can get an encounter in these areas.
Yeah, so generally speaking, for most of the encounter, most of the comp, it's better to not slip run for step counter reasons. These encounters are pretty well routed, so you can do. Oh, he's just getting good draws anyway, but you can do them all with just copy damage on the Buster just fine.
If you throw Black
Works out
Bomb,
quite well.
if you throw Black Bomb onto a fire virus, then it blows up and kills everything. I mean, it does 260 damage to everything, but that's most viruses dead.
Unfortunately, the fire virus itself will only take 100 damage from it,
Yeah.
because it only takes the contact damage, and it ignores all fire damage.
Yes,
Wait.
luckily copy damage will do the rest for us. And this machine gunner is actually a null virus, but he shoots out a paralyzing lightning orb, which triggers copy damage, or element trap rather. So that's actually probably the best draw for that. If not, then like maybe M Boomer would be good.
And Boomer is probably faster due to no time
No
stop at all.
cutscene. This is the Circus Man refight.
Whatever. Rip that second.
Oh no.
This Circus Man fight's exactly the same as the first fight, only he has more HP, so it takes a little longer.
You get to see his other attack. that I
It
just
doesn't have
avoided.
iframes through the explosion damage. Normal viruses don't get iframes. The candles just don't take fire damage.
All right. Well,
And this will
Just
be the
one
final
more thing
boss.
to go.
So the important thing to note here is that Gregar, the final boss, has 2 hitboxes, his face and his body.
yeah, this fight is kind of hard to explain on the fly. So
There will
There's a-
be animation canceling by tanking damage. So just damage boosting, basically. He's going to, even if he didn't damage boost, he's going to cross cancel once. It uses a lot of kind of in-depth mechanics.
We'll
Gregar
also
attacks
see-
in a pattern, and he's also got 2 hitboxes. So we want to throw the flamethrower out before he jumps down, so that way he lands on both, and we hit both hitboxes at the same time. Because the flamethrower it travels 1 panel at a time, so we can't double hit. And then here we finally get to see Heat Beast, which will give him control again, and you can charge a null elemental chip. Our Buster does 130, this does 200 per square, so each hit with both hitboxes will do 400 damage. So time is coming up soon.
So time will be right as Gregar starts exploding, which will happen very soon.
Last chip.
Now, time.
Nice. 217.50. That is cleanly sub 220, which is excellent for a marathon
Yeah.
and or
well
showcase.
Oh, man.
You did it! Wow,
Thank you.
seriously, only a couple minutes off of world record too.
Yeah, I was really hoping I didn't, because I had a run the other day on the Team BN channel that I almost got world record on. I wasn't expecting it.
And you said we had a couple little glitches and things that you wanted to show off as well?
Yes, so I will. There's a reason that I saved for just before the final boss for safety, but also so I can start going back and showing off a couple other things. The first thing I'm going to show off is the slipwalk glitch again, but what happens when you step on a warp. As Arthur explained earlier, it does in fact soft lock your game, but I'll show that just so you can see it for yourself. And then I'm going to also do, I'm going to go get the humor Navi program so you can see a good little joke that the developers put into the game. What do you think, Tara? Should I just skip the credits? Just let the credits play out?
So the credits have a little epilogue where 6 kind of wraps up the story, and then it also shows you your in-game time. It's got nice music, but yeah, if you want to just go ahead and get to the glitches, that's fine.
I'm actually kind of curious what my
Game
IGT is going to be.
Cool.
The wrap up of the story from the big overarching plot here in BN6 is there's 2 giant copy bots that we're going to host the Psy Beasts and go run rampant. We teamed up with Colonel and Iris being a net Navi this whole time in a copy bot, and took out the G Beasts and saved the day, and maybe Willie survived.
Wiley definitely survived. Barrel is a bit more questionable.
I mean, Barrel gives you a copy bot at the end.
Yeah,
Supposedly. It's implied.
Yeah.
They're more direct when they say Wiley survived, but they're way more subtle about the fact that Barrel survived. I wonder if I can see it on my screen. The foot? Nah. Sometimes
See it on stream.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Oh, I can see it. You can like barely see Mega Man's foot in the top left corner.
They don't
keeps moving.
deactivate Mega Man's sprite when he runs off screen there. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, all of the BN games have credits like these where they just show off things from the game and you reuse animations and stuff.
What did I? Oh, I did reset for Gavel skip. That's right. 20 years later. Anyway. And now we're back to the title screen. You'll see I have this fancy new icon indicating that I've beaten Gregar, the final boss. And now let's go show off how you can soft lock with slipwalking.
When's all icons?
So soft locking with slip run is kind of like a tradition. It's like at the end of your run, you just go and you soft lock real quick. So by trying to slip run into an NPC at the same time that you interact with an NPC, you'll be put into this animation called slipwalk. If I step on this warp, I guess I'll save. I can't save before anything. Hold on, let me just do this. It's not a huge deal either way, but. And now if I step on the warp, I can't put in any inputs, really. I mean, I can, but they don't do anything. Can't jack out, can't pause, nothing. Nothing works except soft resetting your game. Or hard resetting it, I suppose.
Actually, if you press start while moving around during slipwalk, you'll actually stall for a frame as it tries to open the menu.
Yep, and then it won't let you actually open the menu, because I tried. Alright, so now I'm going to go grab the humor program so we can all enjoy a good joke made by our lovely translation team. Unfortunately,
where are you gonna go to?
I'm just going to stick to the green area courtroom.
It is a bug that soft locks you.
It prevents you from progressing through the game. Your only option is to soft reset to your last save, which if I hadn't saved beforehand would have been technically before Gregar, but it's potentially a problem if I hadn't saved the entirety of the game.
It's very unfortunate. And apparently it is possible to slipwalk by accident. We've found that out. It's not easy to do by accident, but yeah. If you play the virtual console version, slipwalk is fixed though, so you won't have to worry about that.
Fixed.
Quite.
Moved.
Removed.
Every BN game has a program called Humor. It does this. Well, every BM game with a Navi cast has this.
Want to see an impression? This is an impression of Huey. I know where this is going. Tee hee hee, la ha 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 ha, ya. Uh-oh. Click. That's
Ring, ring.
rude. Don't say ya. I'm too cute for that, so be quiet, please. Click. No way. Did you hear that?
You just got called by a villain.
That was.
Why does everyone have
supposed to be a
lines?
joke.
Yeah, BN6 humor sucks.
It's
BN
pretty
French
bad.
is way better.
It's pretty bad in this game. I think one of the times I was showcasing this game, I got that exact same joke. First time I got humor, actually.
You have to go do research and find which area is better, but they'll quite ones.
Yeah, is that everything?
I believe
Yep,
so.
that should wrap up everything with this run, so.
Yeah. Do you guys have any shout outs to give to the community or anything?
If you're-
BXP.
Yeah, shout out to the BXP and EP Strats. If you're interested in these games as a speedrun, please join the Team BN Discord. We'll post a link in chat. It's a great place to find out about upcoming events and ask runners for resources. Arathar has a tutorial for this game specifically, and Rish is working on an updated one with segments, so that should be pretty cool. I think otherwise, we're planning-
Also, shout outs to Jameek, the Falzar runner, the sole Falzar runner hanging in there, who runs the opposite version of this.
yeah,
Wonderful. Well, I sure learned a lot, including what is humorous in this game, and that is technically nothing. Thanks again, Rishk and Fat Kid, Arathar, The Last AO, T Terra J42 for being here, and everyone in the chat. Remember to vote for the next game on Twitter at Games Done Quick. And as a reminder, that Frame Fatale submissions are still open, so if you're a lady speedrunner, you have until June 15th to submit your game for the event, so get on that, I want to see it. And speaking of Frame Fatales, we have a special, long-awaited Chrono Trigger run by Sisura on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We promised it during the event. Here it is! We're gonna do it! Also, there's a Super Mario Bros. 3 sneak peek tomorrow at 8 p.m., again, Eastern Time. And also, Summer Games Done Quick Marathon! It's coming up from June 23rd until the 29th, benefiting Doctors Without Borders. It's soon. It's so soon. It's so soon. I can't wait. So be sure to tune in for some great speedruns for a wonderful cause. And we'll see you next week right here for another community spotlight on twitch.tv/GamesDoneQuick.